You ready to get started? Okay, I can't see anyone in the audience. This is an unusual experience, but I'm calling to order the budgetary workshop number 5 for July 16th at 4:30 p.m. We're going to start with an opening prayer led by City Attorney Nevin Zimmerman, Elder of First Presbyterian Church, and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Brian Granger. Please rise. There we go. Now I can see everybody. I have no idea if you've heard me or not.
You're great.
Thank you.
He did.
It's Presbyterian Church.
Oh, there we go. Let us pray. Father, we're just so thankful for today. Thankful for once again being able to come and meet and look at things that are best. And I know that a lot of times it's difficult to differentiate best from good, but that is something that we are called to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. I'm going to pass it over to City Manager Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, we'll do the roll call at this time.
Okay. Mayor Branch.
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Hughes is not here at this time. Commissioner Lucas.
Present.
Commissioner Granger.
Present.
Commissioner Street.
Here.
All right, Mayor, you have a quorum.
Awesome. All right, well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, staff, members of the public. We're here at our pre-budget workshop number 5. This will be the final presentations for our staff. Tonight, we have Public Works doing all of the non-general fund accounts and divisions, and then followed by Housing and Community Services. So at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Clint Murphy, our Director of Public Works, to go through the first part of the presentation. Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Clint Murphy, the Director of Public Works, and we appreciate the opportunity to talk about Public Works today. This is our second shot at it. And I brought with me some support because I didn't know how far down into the weeds you wanted to get, but I brought some of my team just in case you had some detailed questions I might need some help with. To my left is Carlos Sanchez. He's a Utilities Operation Manager. And we have Charles Gibbs, our Assistant Superintendent of Environmental Services, and Hannah Medke, which is our Environmental Compliance Manager. Thank you guys for joining. If you recall, on a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the general fund, and we had 4 different cost centers we talked to you about at that time. So today we are limited to what you see in red, and that is the enterprise fund cost centers, of which we have 16, I believe. So if you look at those centers, go ahead. You can go. Environmental services, we'll talk about residential and commercial garbage collection and bulk trash and yard waste collection. I think equipment and fleet maintenance is pretty self-explanatory. And on the utility side, they've got a lot going on there. They've got the water and sewer system maintenance and repair, lift stations, wastewater treatment plants. They got the lab, cross-connection control, the FOG program, and the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, which is associated with our stormwater system. Next. I love to talk about Public Works, and the best way to start with that is with garbage. So Cost Center 3420 is residential garbage. This service is provided to residents and small businesses twice weekly via our 90-gallon garbage carts, commonly referred to as the blue carts.
When did we get those? Because people talk about them all the time.
We can get those to you if you just.
No, when did we get them?
Oh, when do we get
Yeah,
them? Charles?
people love them.
I just got another shipment in yesterday. So
No,
we,
he's asking when did we
When,
start using them?
the blue trucks, did we paint them?
the blue trucks we started getting last year. It's the newer models.
People like it.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, I thought you were offering the commissioner a garbage truck. I'm like,
No, no,
I don't-
I thought he was asking about the blue carts, and when we started using those, I go, well, that's before my time. But the blue trucks were very recent, and part of the reason is the white trucks get dirty pretty easy. These you have to keep clean, but they're a little more forgiving.
They show off.
I agree. I love them. Let's see, the department utilizes 8 of those side loading garbage trucks and 1 rear loader, what they call a packer truck. Some people call them the sling truck. And that's where they work out of the back, your old traditional. And that's in locations where it's too tight to be able to use a side loader. We have approximately 13,600 customers throughout the city, and we collect around 15,000 tons of garbage per year. Commercial garbage collection service within the city corporate limits. In this bullet point, and as of today, we collect 7 days a week using front-end loaders. That may change in the near future. I just got a notice today that I sent to Jared and Jonathan that Bay County is talking about suspending their Sunday landfill hours. And that'll put us in a little bit of a bind because we run a few trucks on Sunday. And if we wanted to continue to do that, and it's for restaurants and businesses that need that service, we would be kind of in a bind on what to do with the garbage at the end of the day. And it's not good practice to keep your trucks loaded overnight because you're asking for problems such as rodents. And potentially, if you have anything hot in your truck, there's been fires known to happen. In fact, we had one a couple of years ago up in Panama City North, and your best option is just to dump the load on the street to save your $500,000 truck. I know the cleanup is difficult, but it's better than losing your $500,000 truck. So if an unmanned truck catches on fire, you don't have that option, and you'll lose your truck, and depending on where it's parked, you might lose more than one truck. So that's going to create, we're going to have to really talk through what we want to do there with that. That would be even more of an argument for a transfer station, by the way. We utilize 2, 4, 6, and 8-yard dumpsters in the process. We have 2,100 customers, and we collect 18,000 tons of garbage a year. Next. Cost Center 3430. This is our litter crew, and it's very popular with residents. It started in 2025 as a 2-person crew, and we expanded it to 4 in fiscal year 26. This expansion allows us to operate 2 two-person crews out of 2 separate trucks. We remove litter and illegal dumped material from public land and roadways. Each crew is collecting, this is approximately 850-gallon bags of litter each year that they get off our right-of-way. Next. Cost Center 3440 is our residential trash. We have scheduled, anyway, once a week residential trash for family units. We attempt to utilize 10 trucks equipped with knuckle boom and trailer systems to provide this service. We have 2,100 customers, and we collect 75,000 cubic yards of trash per year. And I caveated that we are really struggling to keep drivers in that cost center. So as of today, I think we're down to being able to operate about 5 trucks.
Why do you think that is?
If you're asked my opinion, I think we have to really take a close look at the pay that we're offering for that position.
So how much is the pay for somebody driving that right now?
We start, I lost it. We start them at 1807. Thank you, Charles. I thought it was lower than that, actually. 1807.
You know, this commission at the town hall that I had the privilege of moderating or being at, whatever I was doing, there was some conversation about, hey, how do we fill this gap and get back on schedule? Myself and Shane Doherty have talked through getting some of our existing CDL drivers that maybe aren't familiar with the routes, trained on operating the actual knuckle boom, and spreading all the CDL drivers that are on these vehicles, because our drivers both operate the knuckle boom and operate the truck, and peppering them out through our existing fleet, and on certain days running a little bit of overtime because we've got some salary savings. Additionally, we're going to reach out to the county and their CDL drivers that run their heavy equipment work 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. And so on Fridays, we may be able to extend some overtime opportunities to their staff so we can plus up and get ahead. So there's some of the things that we're looking at. I just knew that question might come up.
What about the litter crew? Can they be cross-trained to be a CDL? I mean, is that their sole purpose?
That's their sole purpose, and that's the lowest wage we offer at the city, is that crew. So that's very unskilled labor.
Right.
It'd be a heavy lift to get them trained.
Now, we have used them periodically to run the mini sweeper on occasion when we're in a bind, but that does not require CDL.
There's got to be some more people that have that skill set that we can train instead of hiring somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
CDLs can be a little tough to get.
yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're pretty sought after. So once we get them, they tend to move on if the pay is better.
And there was some recent legislation a couple of years ago at the federal level that made it much more difficult to get a CDL. And there's talk about rolling that back. So it might, hopefully that could offer some relief. But we're, just like any other business that relies on CDL drivers, this is a very common problem in Bay County. And
so I had a phone call today about a group from August to November. They need space to train CDL drivers and heavy equipment drivers through in the backs of these semis where they have, where you act like you're using it.
Simulator.
Simulator.
Couldn't get that word. And they need places for 3 months for their semis to sit and train. And they need a little bit of space and that. I was like, So maybe I can talk to them and if we can pick off, yeah, we can provide it maybe. But how can we get to the CDLs?
The Bay County Contractors Association and the Chamber of Commerce, this was like a big task force for them. I believe it was last year or the year before. They made some progress in that, and I'd love to connect them with the BCCA folks in the chamber.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. Next. CNG station. This is cost center 3450. We are the only operated local CNG fueling station. Our environmental services fleet is 100% converted to run on CNG. Since the conception of the fueling station, we have saved approximately $1.5 million in fuel expenses. And the station is available for outside customers to refuel with CNG. The one bullet that didn't make it on there is that it is good for our local air quality. And it's much better for your internal combustion engines. A lot of people think that gasoline is a pure fuel because it's liquid. That is not the case. There are a lot of impurities in both gasoline and diesel. And natural gas extends the longevity of an engine considerably. Next. Okay, street sweeping operations is under cost center 3460, or will be under cost 3460 in the FY27 budget, proposed budget. We sweep approximately 600 miles of roads annually, remove on an average of 500, that number was updated with 500 tons of material per year. And the mini sweeper scrubbers purchased and mobilized this year, and we are now working on, kind of concentrating on downtown in the start of that operation. There was some training, and we had to get certain attachments in before we started using it, but it is in full use now and making a difference. Next. Just a quick look at environmental services overall budget. Now, we do, to what controls both the utility and the environmental services budget is a rate study. We do a rate study about every 5 years. I think we are due, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandy, I think next year is when we're doing the next rate study?
Yes, there's one in the budget for fiscal year 27.
Perfect. Okay, so we're on the final year of the one that was done before. You can see that our revenues are are above those estimated by that rate study. And our expenses in this enterprise fund specific to environmental services is below the amount. So for next year's budget, the rate study suggests a $12.5 million budget. And what we're proposing, at least in draft form to date, is $12 million. So that's a really healthy enterprise fund for us. Next. Yeah.
Clint, what is admin? I see that wasn't in the rate
Yeah,
study, but it is now.
Brandy might speak to this. I think that's a new cost center that was created after the,
Yep, we
Yeah.
created that cost center to be consistent with how we do our other funds, like in general fund, we have a public works admin. In utilities fund, we have a utilities admin cost center. Those costs were there, they were just spread out and costs allocated out amongst the other cost centers. So they were 34, 20, 30, 40, 50. So you had positions split out and costs split out, and instead we moved all of those to that admin cost center.
This is
But
that
the other
service delivery budget where everything it costs to do this service is included in this budget.
Yes,
right?
it's more reflective
Yeah,
of that.
Okay.
But the other thing is, it gets the same budget numbers as others. So copiers and insurance, it's another place that money goes to. I don't agree with the admin.
Those costs were still there, Commissioner, they were just split out. Instead of you seeing them all in one place,
No, see, Riley,
it's made it a lot easier.
when we first got in here, there was these lump sum amounts.
Right.
Where it was just copiers for the city,
Right,
this much money. And it was like, well, okay, well, who's using them,
right,
right? And it is HR, lump sum to the city. Okay, well, how much is this particular one using towards HR versus this one?
right.
And so we asked for it to be split out. We asked for it to be put in here like that. So that way we could see that, okay, in order to run all of this, that's the admin overhead needed to do that. Now, needed is, we can argue that all day long as whether or not you need this many copiers, that many copiers. But the point is that we wanted it reflected in the particular budget bucket.
Okay, and that's
So
fair.
that, so that you could see that, okay, well, there's HR happening here, there's copiers, there's pencils, paper, all that other stuff that you have to do your job, right? All that stuff kind of goes in there. Instead of it just being like another fund that's just kind of ephemeral, like we don't know where that's going.
Okay,
So,
so the lady that is, when I walk into your office, right there, is she in the admin?
she is.
Okay, so she's in the admin. And they've got her budgeted for, all we should have there are salaries. Because they're picking up all the copiers and all the other expenses, and what they're done is add more expense to that cost center
Or,
when it's not there.
or we could allocate it out. It makes it easier to be able to, when you're costing out invoices or doing your purchase orders, to be able to do one cost center versus having to allocate it out amongst all the different cost
But if I
centers.
if you're saying that if, instead of having $50 in copier, it would be 100 over there.
I'm not following
Because you're
that.
costing it out 50 to admin and 50 to utilities. If we didn't cost it out to admin, you're saying utilities would be $100. Where would it be? Where would it go?
the problem that we were faced with was when we asked the question, how much does police cost in its entirety?
Right,
Never, couldn't get an answer.
right,
How much does fire cost in its entirety? Couldn't get an answer. How much does public works cost in its entirety? We couldn't get an answer. Because they were reliant on all these other things, and those other things were completely separated financially
Right.
from them, right?
Okay.
And so then we said, okay, let's lump this all together, change how we do the accounting a little bit to where we're not hiding anything, but that it's Public Works has two separate budgets because they use general fund and they have enterprise fund.
Right.
They're one of the different ones out there,
3 enterprise funds.
3 enterprise funds. And so we wanted to see what does that look like it's in its entirety, right? So it makes it easier to make decisions at this level when you can see all of it in one bucket.
and I like that.
Okay,
I'd like to see some more line item, but I like that. My issue is that admin, they're treating that admin cost center, I hate that word, that it's got all these expenses. It doesn't. The same coffee machine that Clint's using, so is the admin. But $50 goes, whatever the number is, goes there. But the admin is separated out. Why does that cost center need to have all of that budget like everybody else? It's not
Commissioner?
doing the same. Yes, ma'am.
The admin cost center for environmental services is not located in the same building. It is its own admin cost center because all of those costs, the copier that you're seeing, the salaries, and all of the office supplies are in a completely different building. they don't have access to the same copiers that Public
Well, he
Works.
just told me she's that woman that's not nice.
So
That's not
we're getting
the
confused
environmental
with-
Services admin. The environmental services admin is over at Massalina.
I
It's
think-
all the same.
Well,
I mean,
hold on.
The principle's the same.
Are you wanting them all to share one copy, or is that what you're saying?
Budgeting for, and this is about budgeting. It's not about, they're all sharing the same copy. She-
But they're not, sir.
they're not,
They're in
no.
a separate building.
So Massalina, so this
I
admin,
get that. That's the Massalina one.
What are we
Let's
solving
bring
for?
us back to, we're solving for, I think we budget too much. If I'm in the same office with you and I've got 5 call centers, why do I need 5 budgets for the same thing that we're all using?
But that's not what's happening here, sir.
That,
This is a different office, so
Okay.
we can allocate all of those expenses that are exclusive to this enterprise fund and exclusive to environmental services in the admin cost center, because otherwise what we would have to do is take that bill for the copier and divide it between residential trash, commercial garbage, 4 or 5 other cost centers, and that's not a viable way to actually get the cost of what the overhead to operate the garbage and trash collection would be, in a way for us to be able to examine the budget properly so we can make proper expense cuts where it's maybe not necessary to have, what if environmental services had 2 copiers, but we couldn't tell because they're being split between different cost centers? This way we know they're only using one and we can control those overhead admin costs. That's what the admin cost center is for.
and Commissioner Hughes.
So I picked the one that's not in the building.
Commissioner
Well, I'm
Hughes.
sorry,
talk about
I misunderstood you.
And I think when you said admin, we were pointing to a specific person sitting behind a desk. When this whole cost center is at Massalina, and it's in the
Yeah.
Public Works Administration Building, and it does have an administrative assistant, it does have a copier, it does have those office supplies and all those things that it takes to work. And that's
I'll
what
come
this is
back to admin
reflected
in a
on.
moment.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's, so, and I think we got confused with
Yeah.
admin and then administrative assistant.
So Charlotte, you asked, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I was just gonna ask the question, does it make sense to bring their administrative arm over to here to reduce overhead costs?
We need admin at Massalina.
We can look at it, but that person is dealing with like, hey, you missed my garbage pickup and the
Yeah.
amount of phone calls that come in.
I'm not asking them to do anything different, I'm just saying the proximity that's here.
where would you put them?
That's
Yeah,
that's part of the issue, but we can look, I mean, I'm not adverse to looking at that and seeing if it creates a synergy and saves us some money. But the proximity to the staff that she supports is over there.
Shane needs her over there, he really does.
But, I mean, we can look at it. I'm not saying no.
Yeah. So Commissioner Hughes, I don't think I answered your question private. Charlotte is the young lady that is she's in cost center 1710, which is the general fund, Public Works. So this is a different one that we're talking about. I didn't understand your question there.
Well, I probably didn't ask it properly, so I picked the one that doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Okay, big issue, and I think I shared with you during our last meeting, is we are short a total of 9 drivers. I think 6 of those now, because I just signed a PAF, is in residential trash. So as we've discussed, we're struggling to attract qualified drivers, and that's our big issue in this enterprise fund. Next,
But those are still budgeted,
they are still budgeted,
so
yes.
when we see this number, it includes those drivers.
That's right. And even though we're under a hiring pause right now, Jonathan has approved us advertising for these critical positions because of the impact on the service level that it's creating.
I think to Robbie's point, what would be helpful is maybe on this one, first of all, like operations wise, trash, they've always done an amazing job. I love our trash people. I often compliment them as the most well-run operation in all of the city. No offense to every other department, but they do a fantastic job. Maybe why don't we start with the conversation of just seeing a line item detail of what's in that admin cost from this past year. So let's just take a look at it.
Okay, all right.
Actuals.
Is that I assume you want that for each of the budgets?
I was gonna try to keep it simple by just
Okay.
looking at trash. And their overhead number is actually really low comparatively to every other department we've looked at thus far. So I think if, they're probably the leanest of the bunch. But it would be good to kind of just see, because I don't even know that I understand everything that gets tagged to admin, so that would just clarify.
Yeah.
I do know that when trash gets missed or when bulk pickup gets missed, that's the quickest way that people reach out.
Yeah.
Phone call. Yeah, it is.
I mean,
You
frankly,
can beg
these
them to
guys
come to
can't take
meetings.
any days off. They can't miss anything. They can never be sick.
You can, you can ask them to come to
Just gave a
meetings.
list of-
You can have all kind of public outreach. You just miss trash.
That's right.
And
John, didn't you tell me that the claw like starts on the east side of town? It's down,
It does.
Yeah.
And it's a little different than like, say, if we don't do, and there's only 5 holidays where we don't pick up the blue cans. You know, obviously east side, west side, but with the, you know, with the bulk pickup or the claw, you know, they just, you know, if they get behind, there's a holiday, they pick right back up where they left off, and then they just start that loop over again. And so between the bulk pickup of the trash and then our, you know, the blue cans, I mean, our guys literally, like, our entire team, I think they pretty much drive every road in our city 3 days a week. They're the entire team, between the Tuesday, Friday pickup, and then the Monday, Thursday pickup, and then the bulk trash pickup as well.
okay.
And they have to drive all the way to, well, the commercials don't drive every single road like the side loaders and the trash does. And they have to drive it, you know, halfway to Niceville, so.
All right. Next, we'll talk about the Equipment and Fleet Maintenance Enterprise Fund. It's a separate enterprise fund. It just has one cost center, that is 8930. And they are responsible to repair and maintain a fleet of 875 vehicles and pieces of equipment. They average more than 5,100 work orders per year. It runs and operates the city's automated fueling facility there at Masalina. Coordinates outsourcing to local mechanic shops as needed for specialty work and peak shaving. If we get overloaded and there's work queued in line, they'll outsource it to expedite the return of that piece of equipment. Next. Quick look at the overall budget there. They've proposed for FY '27 an increase in 178,000, I'll call it 179,000 over this year's budget. The reason for that primarily is we're anticipating more outsourcing. In the last month, we have lost 3 of our mechanics. 3 might not sound like a lot, but it's 3 out of 12, which represents 25% of our mechanics. And unfortunately, it was some of our most experienced mechanics.
Where'd they go?
One went to the county, the other one went to a private shop, and the other one to the beach. Okay, to the beach. So
What's the lowest pay that they left for going to, from bottom to where they
I'm
were
not sure.
going up?
I don't know what the pay they got at the new location.
Okay.
I have one of the offers. Well, it was an old offer, and then they gave it to him twice. So I have one of the offer letters for one that left for
And
the
how
one.
much was that?
Vicky's back. Do you know the answer to that, ma'am?
Mechanics.
Yes, the one that went to the county. Do you know what he was offered? I think I sent you the
A
offer.
mechanic?
Yeah.
No, sir,
No,
I don't have
okay.
a mechanic offer letter. That was environmental services, sir.
No, I sent you one mechanic. Well,
I
I can get it
apologize, I
to
don't
you.
recall that
It
one.
it was
Do you know
considerably,
the pay of a
The pay,
mechanic?
I have that in my office. My apologies, I do not have that with me. I know the mechanics we've lost recently. We lost one to moving to Pensacola and going to an entirely different field of work. I know we lost one mechanic
to the county.
to the county. I recall that one, but I just don't know the rate of pay there. And,
One just walked down and left.
that mechanic, did part ways, but there were other challenges involved in that mechanic parting ways as well.
Yeah,
Outside of pay,
that's right.
definitely outside of pay.
Yeah.
My apologies for missing the question and stepping out.
Good. No, you're good. So.
Anything else, sir?
Thank you.
So the primary reason for that increase, we've also asked for $135,000 in capital money to help with a lube system we've been trying to get for several years now. Currently, they have to run back and forth to 55-gallon drums, and it's not very efficient. Portable hydraulic lifts would be safe and more efficient. Lift frame attachments, those are essentially a quick connect and disconnect system that makes getting a vehicle on a lift quicker and actually safer. And water-cooled fans for the shop. Those of you that have been in there this month know that it's almost unbearable in there. It's a pretty hot environment. So water-cooled fans would go a long way for our mechanics.
Clint, how are we doing on the facility? Because I know we're building a facility for these guys, correct?
That was in the pipe, and that was kind of a dream. That was Mark McQueen who envisioned that. However, I think the funding, we didn't understand.
Yeah, I've got those numbers, Clint.
Okay,
So we were
thank
going to build a new building for $4.5 million, and instead we spent about 1.2 or 1.3 and fixed up the one we have.
So that work is complete?
That work is complete.
Got it.
Yeah, and we, as part of that, we tried to get the lube system in that, and it didn't make the cut. So there are no current plans. We have the hard copy plans because Dale Cronwell helped with that, but there's no current plans to build a new facility.
Is there any, are these guys ever a part of our evaluation process on equipment and vehicles that we choose? I mean, these guys have got to work on them. I assume that they know which ones are bad and
Yes.
which ones are good.
Yeah, they will provide input to our purchasing department on what vehicles are easier to maintain.
So I think last time we talked about doing an evaluation of all city vehicles, I would love to see the comments of our equipment maintenance personnel as part of that report.
Okay.
So that we can include the guys that actually maintain it on what vehicles are worth
Yeah.
keeping, what vehicles are, please
they
don't
would
buy
appro-
another one of these.
They would appreciate that input. Tim Lamb was hoping to be here tonight. He had a family emergency that took him to Alabama, I believe. So he had to head there yesterday. So I hope that things are.
So you're
well.
asking for the capital request. Would you say that is to improve working conditions?
Yes,
And would that also be a factor along with pay?
Yes.
As why it's challenging to get?
absolutely. I think that would help.
And we're looking at doing a couple other things. You know, a lot of mechanic shops, including ours, a lot of mechanics bring their own tools to the job, and they stock their tool chest and lock their tools. You know, we're providing impact wrenches up to a certain degree. But, you know, it's something that we found out, Clint and I and the team visited the equipment maintenance shop, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
And one of the comments was, yeah, when we break one of our impact wrenches, that may be smaller or bigger than what we provide, you know, it's on us. And that's a $700, you know, drill and a wrench. And so we're looking at providing some additional city-owned tools and bringing that to the game too. And I think that would help attract and retain some talent as well.
Is that part of this request?
No,
That is not.
That would be in like our equipment costing less than $3,500. And that would be in the operating piece.
Did you mention the tool allowance idea?
We got it still back.
We just got it. Okay. Any other questions on this one?
I'd like for you to, on the trucks we have across the street in the
Yeah.
parking lot, can you give us, how many we are and what, in order of best to worst? Do they all run? How many miles? Do we keep miles on our trucks?
Yes. When you get fuel, you're required to input the mileage as you're getting fuel.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a limit that once it hits a certain number, we trade it out or not?
There's not. I think we would like for that to happen, but as of now, it's based on the budget, what we have available to replace it. Now, what we do try to do when we buy a new vehicle, we get rid of the old one, take it to auction.
Yeah, and Brandy and myself and Sean Self, the logistics director, have a draft policy already for a one vehicle in, one vehicle out policy unless otherwise given permission. So that way we're not accumulating more vehicles than we need. We did have a system of like hand-me-downs. And so if somebody's got to dispose of a vehicle and they know they need to, then then that can either be given to another department. Well, now it's got to be authorized, so we're not growing our fleet like this shadow fleet, if you will. And I do want to remind Commissioner Hughes, we had talked about vehicles and those vehicles that are sitting over across the way. Because the hiring freeze too, we have positions that have funding that would typically have a vehicle, and we've made a conscious choice because of the budget discussions to not hire those people on that hiring pause. So that may be part of the case too. But I know Sean and his team are working on that vehicle evaluation. He did say that he had roughly concern about 20 of our vehicles. And we need to make sure that we scrub those for those potential positions that we may not fund that are currently vacant. And then we would, in my mind, we would divest ourselves of those vehicles, or, if they could be used, for, if PD needed an F-150 and it helped them out. I will say that every time we look at replacing a vehicle, it's my expectation that our department heads look at the vehicle and say, hey, is it worth continuing to repair, or is it that 07 Crown Vic that was used for years, and it might be worth $2,500, but are we going to put a $3,000 motor into it? Like, I would expect we make those evaluations before we ever put more money into an asset that may not be worth it. So
is Sean taking the insurance off those cars while they sit?
I don't know if we can do that, but I will ask him.
Okay.
Maybe it's a reduction because they're not seeing the mileage. But he has, because we've got this Verizon system installed in a lot of our fleet, we can see the miles that are put on those vehicles every month. And like I said, he did even tell this board that he had concern about 20 of those vehicles. And so we're actively working that problem. I mean, even before the commission, I've made light of it at the last meeting.
So, Clint, the camera system that you asked about, was that on all the trucks? On the trash trucks, I think you were putting.
We put it on approximately 22 of our fleet vehicles, and that goes into, the install is complete, and that goes into operation starting next week. We'll start gathering data.
And how long is we gonna gather data?
Well, it'll be indefinitely before you have you're talking about the RMT PCI, pavement condition index
Well, we're trying to
cameras.
figure out how to do a road.
Yes,
A road
yeah,
plan.
that's RMT system. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to have meaningful data on that, but it will be continuous. We're planning to do that indefinitely, gather that data.
Why did it take so long from the time we talked about it to it's just now starting?
Well, we didn't have a Wi-Fi network in place was part of the problem. So we have some of the vehicles at Masalina, some of the vehicles at 19th and Beck. So we had to establish a wireless network, and it has to be independent from any existing wireless network. And it had to have certain bandwidth. And so it took a while to get that set up. And then they wouldn't even mobilize until that was done, RMT, to do the install. And then it took a while to get them scheduled once that happened. So it just was logistically difficult to make it happen much
Which one of
faster.
those extra charges was a surprise? Because we didn't talk about the Wi-Fi network and setting all that up.
That's always been part of the equation. RMT did not charge us for that because that's required of the customer. So that
know
was
it
not
cost
part
us
of.
money, didn't it?
Yes.
Okay, was that in your presentation
Yeah.
of numbers?
That was in our calculation. I don't think it was that expensive. I might look to Cody for support on this. The wireless networks that were put at Masalina and at 19th and Beck for the RMT system, do you know how much we had to spend on that? I think it was
Is that part of
Okay.
the WOW Comcast? Knowledge, we got every internet service possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have that wireless network or couldn't work that.
It's not a function of just getting internet to the facility. Your net, and I believe it's a mesh network, but it has to have proper coverage where every vehicle parks. So the vehicle, when it does park, it can upload the data from the day. And so you've got quite a bit of parking lot, and you've got to cover it, and so you have to have the appropriate number of access points and all that stuff.
Which makes it extra fun because all these vehicles are made out of metal. Which
Yeah.
blocks.
Which blocks
Yeah.
Jared pretty much answered that there, but we had Wi-Fi in the facilities already, but it was made for the facilities and the people in the facilities, not the parking lot. So we had to get special equipment with special antennas that are able to cover up to a half-mile campus there and cover all these vehicles with high enough bandwidth to, and there was a lot of back-ordered parts. The antennas took months to get in.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you just do your name and title for the public?
Cody Klingelhutz, Senior Manager of Information Technology.
What antennas did you use? I'm just curious.
I do not have the name of the antenna off the top of my head, sir.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Linksys.
No.
Yeah, just
What Linksys?
We brought in a specialist and
No one
had
knew
them
either.
figure out what was the best option
The
for
ones
us.
that were on sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, Best Buy.
Lowest.
there you go. All right. Ready to move on to the next enterprise fund? All right. Utilities, this is the big one. And it's your, Carlos, your favorite topic here. Carlos and his team over at Utilities developed some key priorities for next fiscal year. And we're going to go through them real quickly here. Maintain a healthy utility enterprise fund is very important. Maintain emergency repair capability and environmental compliance. Support the failing meter and MXU replacement effort that you guys are very familiar with. Optimize operating costs toward long-term infrastructure resilience and training. Improve field response capabilities through IT solutions and continue proactive inspection and maintenance processes. Next. Cost Center 3630 is our underground cost center. It's part of the goals are to increase operational effectiveness. And it has that, we've been successful at that, have driven down water loss from 30% last year to just over 8% this year. So that's a job well done. Part of that has to do with the new infrastructure that's being put in through SRF and other grant funding that you see all over town. Of course, when we selected the areas of town to do those projects in, we used the heat map that I think you're familiar with, and that actually indicated the worst sections of that infrastructure. So we're hoping that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck in the locations where we selected. Since October of 2025, we've executed over 1,300 work orders for water and over 800 work orders for sewer. And that might not sound like many work orders, but some of those work orders take a week to complete, you know, on big projects. So it could be time consuming based on the scope of work for that particular work order. We have a continued focus on environmental compliance and increased investments in water meter replacement strategy.
Would you say that the emergency repairs are going down in terms of, oops, there's water coming out of the ground, or
I would've s-
sewage backing up into a home?
I would have said that until
Telecom.
the telecom came into
Yeah, well, I know
town
that
and
very
started
well.
doing the underground boring, and that's created a whole different dynamic. But yes, as far as independent from that, I think
But they pay for their mistakes, correct?
after the fact.
The man-made ones notwithstanding, I would agree with Clint. Like, we're not seeing as many, like, you drive by and, oh my God, there's guys are coming out of the ground. And we're not seeing near as much of that
Yeah,
anymore.
and I think Commissioner Street alluded to it, you know, when he and I started back in the summer of 2021, I mean, it was like 6 weeks or
Six, no, it was
something
6 months.
to get to some
It was
leaks.
6 months.
And, you know, we've got that down to most of the time, if we get an emergency, our guys can be there within 60 to 90 minutes to address it.
So we talked last year when we talked about the MXUs, and I know this project has gone way longer than what any of us thought that it should, but Jan was kind enough to supply us with what that 26.97% represented in revenue of water loss, and that was a $1.4 million number that she laid on us. So I think this kind of communicates that most of our water loss was coming from meters not working, is what it appears to me. Is that kind of what you guys are seeing?
I mean, that's a considerable amount, but like I said, you know, you have infrastructure all over the ground that's slowly leaking that you won't see for months on end. You know, another reason that we've kind of reduced the amount of calls is kind of a change in policy. Instead of just going out and just doing patchworks on laterals to homes and just fixing that, we're just doing a complete replacement because the PVC might already be degraded enough that, yes, I did patch here, but then, you know, 2 feet from it, it's going to be leaking next month. So if it's a repeat customer, our guys are going in there and just doing a whole new line. So we're not going back. We're not having to continue to dig up the road. And that's essentially set up for the next 15, 20 years.
So you're saying we're not billing this this amount more. So our water loss went from 26% down to 8.5.
We're not paying the county for wholesale water that we're not billing retail
Collecting.
rates
Correct.
against.
That is
We're-
correct. But
yeah.
are we seeing our water billing of what usages in the city, is that getting billed more?
I would have to defer to Ms.
Like-
Waldron.
Because that would tell me that it's the water meters.
Yeah.
We'll have to look at it, but it could also be these infrastructure projects that we're doing, also having an impact.
Yep.
So the measurements and where you develop the delta is we have master meters all around the city, and that's where the county counts the amount of water that they distribute into our distribution system. And then the only time we're able to measure what we need to charge our customers is at our water meters,
Yeah.
right? So between those master meters and all of our residential meters, that's where all the leakage is happening. That's where that water loss is happening. So repairing those, whether it's through the huge programs or projects that we have going on throughout the city, or the minor leaks that are also underground, those add up, as well as the failing meters. Because they're on estimated billing, they tend to be very underestimated. That's also loss in revenue. Because once again, Bay County they're gonna count their master meters to the T. And so us recovering that delta is where we recover that revenue.
So meters, and I'm bringing this from the standpoint of meters are our number one priority inside of this.
And
Yes.
And to let me go back 5 years ago, when we started this rate study, we did a rate study when meters weren't working. And so everything that we relied on for the last 5 years in our rate study didn't have there was a significant number of meters that were not working. And so it is vital, like, to me, I cannot support doing another rate study unless this metering issue is done.
Okay, so and Commissioner Street, we do, it's not quite ready for prime time yet, but we are formulating a plan to get after the rest of the bad meter issues. We're proposing that potentially some of that funding come out of surtax to immediately get out and replace. It's a funding issue, and we believe, and I'll let Carlos speak to it because he's given me the
So I funded
proposal.
3 rounds of this. The board has funded 3 rounds of meter replacements. What else are you gonna ask for?
All of those were not to be able to complete the project,
Yeah, it's
though. I
been-
mean, we went in, when we installed all the new meters, we did the whole city at one time. So now,
And what year was that?
2014,
2014?
wasn't it?
I don't,
I think it was 2014.
It was over a decade ago, that's the
But
point. yeah.
it was like a $6 million project back then, is what I know, to convert to the whole census metering. And so now,
And what's happened is we haven't replaced meters, and look, it's acute here because of the hurricane and because our system was offline for so long, but it's not something that a lot of utilities throughout the country aren't experiencing. So we're seeing cascading failures, and what I've asked our consultants to do at Core and Main is to get us a regular replacement plan. We'll let Core and Main execute that for us. But we've got to get ahead here. We estimate it's about 1.2 million to make the initial push to get the failed meters that are in the ground now that are failed. But we're seeing about, Carlos, 500 come out a month?
So yeah, slight clarification. So we're losing about 200 readable meters per month that are becoming unreadable. So, part of the problem is we put all these thousands of meters in the ground at the same time, and they're all starting to fail right now.
So I would like to see a comprehensive, so it's not been very well communicated. Maybe everyone else understood this and I was just ignorant to it, but I thought we were going to be done with the metering April of last year. And so it sounds like there's something more catastrophic than even what we've discussed that is continuing to snowball, which does make sense because we continue to get residents that reach out to us about estimated billing that's off, billing that's only for a day, all of these other things. So we need to understand exactly what it takes to complete this, to have it done and to fix. Because I don't know what to say, but like going through a rate study without having towers active and no metering was ridiculous, but that was right after a hurricane. Like now, like we need to have accurate data. And this is, I was actually super encouraged by these numbers, but I thought it was the meters, but apparently it's not. The meters are still failing. So we can't expect our citizens to take action.
That's not exactly what you were saying. You're saying is that you have a wave crest that you're chasing.
Correct.
That's what he's saying. So you have 200 a month are failing,
That's correct.
but how many are you replacing?
We're just barely keeping pace. So we're able to replace currently more. The issue isn't the pace, it's the supply. So being able to buy enough meters and MXUs to then have our contractor put them into the ground. So you're looking at about $170 per meter and $170 per MXU. Obviously, those are your transmitters. And then it costs about $90 for the contractor to put it in the ground. They can scale up, and this is part of the proposal that I've already showed Jared, of different courses of actions that we could take depending on how much we want to invest up front. As well as the 2027 proposal does increase the amount that we have budgeted for purchasing meters. If I could buy more meters, we can put them in the ground faster. But of course, there's opportunity costs there. If we do this and solve this problem today, we're going to be in the same wave crest where it's all going to come at the same
Yeah,
time.
that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, so the other thing we're doing too is we're looking at moving and changing to meters that are easier to replace without having to remove them from the line. So essentially you make it from an actual plumbing activity to just essentially replacing a battery board. And it's at a smaller cost and less man hours per
So
meter.
I think the wave crest issue is if we replaced all 18,000 meters today, and in 10 years, we're going to be facing the same problem because those
Yeah, it
meters.
doesn't make sense.
Because they have a
Don't do
10-year,
that.
they have a 10-year lifespan. And so when you replace the meter today, if you're not replacing 1/5 of your system every year, then you're going to, in a 10-year period, have cascading failures.
That's what he's
You're
asking
going to have a
for.
massive failure.
Yeah.
And I'm asking for, I think the rest of us are probably asking for it as well, of how do we get to where we're just replacing 1/5 every year?
Yeah.
What do
So
you
is
need
that
I
from
mean,
what you're-
us?
that's kind of what we're doing now, but we're chasing that wave. And so what Carlos has proposed is says, hey, if you spend 1.2 to 1.5, you get way ahead of that, and you're replacing 500 for a period of time, and you get ahead of that wave.
It's
And so
about
that's the-
$2.5 million will solve the whole
2.5.
problem.
But you're asking for
But it'll create
1.2
another
million
Well-
from the,
A decade from now,
Infrastructure.
oh, sorry, ma'am.
you're asking
Yes,
for
ma'am.
1.2 million from the infrastructure surtax.
My dyslexia got a hold of me. It's 2.1, not 1.2.
2.5.
2.5, excuse me.
Do I hear 3?
No.
It's 2.5.
And just to be
going, guys.
clear,
No, but this is, we're still fleshing this out. So the caveat is that this really wasn't ready for prime time, but I did want to, at the end of the day, I wanted to let you know that staff is working hard to identify solutions to this problem and more immediate. And when we go back to April of last year, that was the cell tower connections and the MXU connections to see how bad we were. And that's when we hired a consultant, what's the name of that? Rayburn, to help us identify the problem. When the problem that we knew then it has been fixed to a degree. Our systems are all now
So
communicating.
before we take any further action, I would personally like to see you guys discuss with the county on what meter usage they're using and what they're doing for the residential meters they have. Obviously, you guys are aware, we've been in discussions and had conversations about potentially taking over their retail service area. So it would make sense to try to see, is there a system that makes sense for both?
Happy to do that.
So, until that point, what we need, I guess, staff to understand is be kind to our residents and understand that when they get a bill and they're surprised by it, it probably has to do with our failed equipment. I mean, so let's not gaslight them to make it think it's something else. We obviously, we have a known issue here, so, anyway, and I have seen improvement.
And sir, I would tell you, like, I would not support any of our staff gaslighting anybody. I mean,
What I
you
mean
know
by
what I mean.
that, oftentimes it's, well, maybe you have a leak, maybe you have this, maybe you have that. I mean, it sounds like we've got enough known issues within our system that it's probably save everybody time and money to resolve it, move forward. If we need to replace a meter, so.
a point of clarification, on that 2.4 million, which would expedite a solution, it would be replacing about 6,000 meters. So it wouldn't create the same tidal wave of replacement needs 10 years from now. It would be significant, but that's only about 25% of our meters.
Would we then need next year for the infrastructure surtax to be used to keep up with the wave?
No,
No, ma'am. So we have budgeted 225,000 in the FY 27 budget to actually buy enough. If we can solve the entire problem right now, right, that $2.425 million, then we'll be at one that we can buy enough with the budget that we're in, and as well as that we can keep pace with it. It's really the supply issue. The contractor can make the pace. Right now, if he can ramp up and we had enough supply, he could put 500 in the ground a week. And right now, like I said, we have 200 failing a month. So we can catch up quick. We're estimating about, if we had a check cut for that $2.5 million, once all supplies are in and he ramps up, he can have all of them in the ground in 11 weeks approximately.
And the great thing about that is replacing it at that level, we get ahead of the crest, and the census system allows us to see when a meter is low on battery. And then now we're not replacing meters that have failed, now we're replacing meters that are potentially about to, and we're solving the problem before we get to a point where we're estimating a customer's bill. So that's why getting ahead of it will help us.
Yeah,
Question.
the mayor has his hands up.
Yeah, sorry. Does the
Tiny
memo
man.
that you have, Jared?
man.
Yeah. Does the you can make me larger on the screen? Does the memo does the memo also include the cost analysis between the two different products? The one that you can replace the battery pack out of?
It does.
Okay.
And we're still working on it, and we can get that to you guys soon.
I'm wondering on these residents, so it's about $300 and something from what I understand to replace a meter. How long does it take us to recoup that? Sounds like it's a long time.
To recoup,
To recoup the cost of actually making this repair, it sounds like it may take us 2 years of residential water usage to recoup $300 and something.
understood. I mean, but the alternative would be a meter that's being estimated and most likely underestimated. I mean, it has to be replaced.
The question is how much it's being underestimated. I mean, if it's.
Mine just
if-
went up times two from
If it's
estimation.
if it's 1,000 gallons, a month or whatever it is, it may be inconsequential is what I'm trying to say. I'm not talking about commercial users that use 10, 20, 30, 100,000 gallons. I'm talking about just an average, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. $300 is a big expense. I mean, I don't know. I think that you guys should really look at the numbers with this, because whatever $1 million, that's a lot of money to hit on the utility system. And even if we take it from surtax, that's money that comes from roads, it comes from other things. So maybe there's a way for us to tighten our belt, maybe get twice as good as we are now. I don't know. So.
Understood.
Okay.
all right. Ready to move on, Chair? All right, looking at lift stations, this is cost center 3640. We maintain over 140 lift stations across the city, utilizing 19 technicians. Since October of 2025, we have acknowledged 7,600 SCADA alarm calls. The SCADA system is the automatic monitoring system that we have on most of our lift stations, and it sends out an alarm so that our techs are alerted if a station starts having problems. Obviously, the goal of that is to get us out there and do a repair or take care of things before an SSO occurs. We're targeting maintenance on the highest failing lift stations. And as you know, we have projects going on where we are in fact replacing older stations with better equipment. Next slide.
We have to paint the orange boxes on the top. You gotta wrap them.
Okay.
People are like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. You can see it from a mile away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I've
We wrap
heard
it
that
with
before.
something.
Yeah. Moving over to our wastewater treatment operations, there's 3 cost centers associated with that. We treat about 12.5 million gallons a day across 2 plants. Since October 2025, we've treated over 860 million gallons of wastewater. We're investing in increasing effectiveness and efficiency at both plants, and we are assisting the study for the possible Millville wastewater treatment plant relocation study.
Which employee is in charge of lift stations?
Neil Howard.
One person.
No,
Lift station, I'm sorry, Lane, Jonathan Lane.
Jonathan Lane is the superintendent for lift stations.
Okay. Why are we budgeting $3,500 for janitorial? The lift stations are outside.
Because
have
the
a-
environment in
When
which.
you're cleaning up a mess, that's not
Sir,
janitorial.
the environment in which they work with is very dirty, and we do have showers at Beck and 19th and laundry facilities. And I mean, and they have office facilities, and that's an annual cleaning contract. So I mean,
Okay.
am I missing something?
Do we have one janitorial service? There's no way we do because we don't have one of anything.
Right.
We have one
The
company
building-
that cleans everything.
Yeah, the building's split in half, but, I mean, underground shouldn't pay for the, so the underground pays a percentage and lift
As
station
a
pays
city,
a
do we have
percentage.
one janitorial service because everybody budgets for it?
There's not a
Different numbers.
there's not a janitorial service big enough. It's kind of spread through several companies.
Has
is my
anybody ever asked if a janitorial service, one, can do a better job in terms of money and efficiency? I bet it's not been asked.
Yeah, it has been asked. Mr. Self,
Sean Self, Logistics Director, City of Panama City. Yes, repeatedly. We go out to bid quotes multiple times. One of the big factors in those type of businesses is the quality as well, because you can get someone really, really cheap and they do a horrible job. So there are some companies that do a great job for us and some of our different facilities, but they also can't scale up to do the entire city. We have had some that we have given multiple locations at a time. They couldn't maintain them. So we have probably about 4 to 5 different companies doing it right now. And they're spread out between Masalina, here, the lift station, wastewater treatment, all the different locations. And so we're always looking at that repeatedly, not just for cost savings, but better quality. And, you know, there's some, like I said, we'd like to scale up with, but they just don't have the ability to do that. Some of the larger companies, quite honestly, are really too expensive to do that with as well.
But no trying to negotiate with them on a price.
We do it every single time we secure their business.
Okay. The bypass pumps you got budgeted for, is that for the rest of them that are not done? The 310,000?
No, these are actual like temporary bypass pumps. So the beautiful orange ones that you described, those are permanent
Right.
bypass pumps. So those are actually going to stay there. These are temporary ones that we bring into lift stations that either the permanent one cannot keep up with what's going on during whatever repair needs to be done, or they're going to locations that don't have a bypass pump currently, and we're temporarily placing it there until we can make the necessary repairs.
Okay, so we're putting a permanent one on there that doesn't work, doesn't keep up, so we gotta do it, no? What are we saying?
No. So the permanent emergency bypass pumps that we have around the city, like I said, those are for emergencies. Sadly, some of those lift stations aren't working. They have infrastructure issues in general.
yes.
So those emergency bypass pumps are actually being used essentially to be the lift station, which it's not designed to do. They have about a 500-hour maintenance schedule. So at 500 hours and it's running most of the day, it's only taken a few weeks for us to having to, do an entire tear down, oil change, the entire maintenance schedule for it to get it back online. So in times like that, that's where your temporary bypass pumps are necessary. Because if we do not, you're talking about the capital request for them, if we don't purchase them, we're renting them. So
Okay, do we have a list of what lift stations next? Do we have a plan of when that's gonna happen, and do we have money for it?
the
We're
list
buying
of,
temporary station pumps for lift stations that don't work, or not all the way operational. That lift station needs to be fixed. Do we have a list in order of what ones we're gonna do next?
gotcha, understood. So the temporary bypass pumps, they're mobile, so they don't stay at a specific lift station, they move. But yes, one of the things that we put up there that we're prioritizing is instead of just continuing just being reactive with our budget and how we do things, we're going to be more targeted. So that's integrating with our underground utilities section. So our lift stations team knows the frequent callers. We already have data showing the SCADA system, like, hey, these are constantly calling us out. They have issues, but usually isn't the actual lift station. Some of these are brand new remodeled lift stations, but it's the upstream pipes that are bringing, sand, grit, bricks from failing manholes that are clogging up our pumps. So by identifying those, we have a list that we're generating for our underground team that can now start targeting those upstream lines, do some CCTV inspections, as well as we're looking at getting some artificial intelligence applied to that, to where it can actually make an assessment off of our footage, if it's smarter to do a complete repair, if it's smarter to just do lining, or somewhere in between. So we're making a cost-effective solution for the overall system.
Okay, but you still haven't replaced, you still haven't fixed the lift station at that. So let me ask it more specifically. There's a lift station on Beach Drive on the east end, next to the water.
Correct.
When's that being moved? Where's that in the plan to be moved and rebuilt?
So that's,
So, I almost called you Congressman, a little flashback, sorry. Maybe that's an omen. So, you heard it here tonight, folks. Robbie Hughes for Congress. Commissioner, so that is part of the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, the HMGP. We got a grant to harden about 11 lift stations. That lift station number 45, and lift station number 47, which is in Wood Avenue in someone's backyard. Those will be combined and moved up to the southwest corner of the Garden Club parcel, kind of right at the end of Skyland Avenue on the north side of that. We're currently working through FDEM and FEMA on kind of finalizing that. All 11 lift stations from across the entire city that are part of this particular HMGP grant are at 100% design and have been now for probably 18 months. FEMA is going through those right now in Region 4 out of Atlanta. Our hope is, hopefully in the next 60 to 90 days, we get the go-ahead to that. We split those 11 lift stations into 3 different project areas for the purposes of going out to bid. And again, our local engineers and our public works team have already done everything they need to do. It's just a matter of getting sign off on those final plans from FEMA through FDEM so that we can then go to bid.
It'd be really cool if we told the public that. I just learned a lot.
Yeah.
They're designed, we're waiting on the money, it's being looked at, there's 11 of them, that right there is what people want to know.
Yeah,
Did you make a video on that?
I mean, we
made a video on that,
I've
didn't
done lots of videos. I update every.
I'm
Yeah.
saying that's
The
good.
first Monday of every month, I update every project in the city on my Monday morning with the manager, and we have a projects page on the website. And Tim Fontaine asks me about the lift station hardening project every single time he sees me. So he makes sure of that, yes.
Is there a reason why we're not using the loan to do these projects and then awaiting reimbursement? Why is it
So
different here?
my understanding is if they don't sign off on the plans and all that kind of stuff, then they wouldn't be eligible for reimbursement.
Okay,
So
all right.
that's my concern.
So they're technically,
Yeah.
they're not approved
Yeah.
as reimbursable yet.
That is correct. That's what we're waiting on from FEMA Region 4. So, and I think it did get caught up, Commissioner, in the partial shutdown of DHS earlier this year. And so, we're working, we've made contact with Senator Moody, Senator Scott, and also Congressman Dunn's office to try to push that through, as well as the immediate office of the Secretary with DHS. So there has been some movement in the last number of weeks. And I'll just speak briefly to Project Storm as well. That's the CDBG-DR project funded that is helping us with roughly, very rough numbers, about 50 of our lift stations. Those are the permanent bypass pumps. The 50 that were identified as the critical ones that need it. But you saw the numbers. We have 140 lift stations. The short answer is no, Commissioner. We don't have enough money yet right now to fix all 140 lift stations. So we prioritize them. But Clint and Carlos and their teams have to regularly, triage situations and challenges in order to keep the wastewater moving, to keep it out of the streets and keep it out of our homes and businesses. So we continue to work hard on trying to find additional grants. We have gotten additional CDBG-DR money and been able to add additional work. I think y'all approved, roughly $350,000 at the last meeting for Project Storm to do some additional work. So the permanent bypass pumps are great because in the event that we do lose commercial power, those 50 or so roughly lift stations will keep moving that wastewater without relying on commercial power. And I also think, there was a number of the Project Storm, in addition to getting the permanent bypass pumps, they also got the SCADA system. So it's a huge upgrade, but when you have 140 lift stations, it's going to take a little more time, and continue to look for grants, continue to look for funding opportunities, and then also prioritizing some of the key ones in their own operational budget as we move forward. Yes, sir.
What are you depreciating? What apparatus, what are you depreciating?
There,
Is that the
Commissioner.
lift station
Yeah,
itself?
they're a proprietary fund, so they have depreciation on their assets, that capitalize all their assets. So it's not just lift stations, it's the wastewater treatment plants, it's their vehicles, it's all their equipment that gets capitalized.
Okay, thank you.
All right, ready to move on? We'll talk about the laboratory. Oh, I hadn't gone over that yet, so, thank you, sir. Laboratory is cost center 3653. It's since October 2025, it's collected 5,500 samples and conducted 15,600 tests. We are actively modernizing and replacing dated equipment, and as of Tuesday of this week, we're able to hire a new superintendent of the lab. His name is Jamie Grand Prix. He comes to us from the Florida Rural Water Association, and before that, he was actually a director of public works in Utah. I don't know, did Jamie make it today? Nope. Okay, but he brings a lot of experience to the table, including water and wastewater and reclaimed wastewater use, which is fondly referred to as purple pipe. We are looking into doing some of that up in PC North, so he'll be a great asset for the team, and we're excited to have him on board. Next slide. This is our FOG program. We also refer this as to our environmental compliance. This is Hannah's team, which has herself, the manager, and 2 inspectors. We've also worked very closely with Vicki and our HR team to accommodate restricted duty employees who are assigned light duty for various different things. And because we do a lot of data entry, we do a lot of routine inspections. And so depending on their restrictions, we can actually put them to work. So at any one time, you might see 4 or 5 light duty employees down in room 10 helping Hannah and her team out. Her team ensures FDEP compliance with 3,700 backflows, almost 20,000 utility connections, and 262 FOG devices. I think you're aware FOG stands for Fats, oils, and grease. And, just as if you were at your house pouring bacon grease down your drain, you're going to have problems. Same process here. You don't want to put oils and grease in our system. It'll cause the same type of problem. So Hannah does a great job with that. Oh, we have a question from our mayor. Thank you.
I love a good grease trap.
Good. How many do you have?
I have like 3 or 4 at this point. I'd really like to see us. I spent months of my life researching grease traps because of the city and a few years ago. Very thankful for that. I want to see our grease trap FOG ordinance move into recommending and incentivizing hydromechanical grease traps. They're smaller, they're more efficient. They don't have to store as much because they're just better at processing the liquids. I'm not aware of how we currently handle inspections, but oftentimes municipalities will do the grease police and they just show up and they surprise you. And I love that. They don't tell you, a lot of cities don't tell you how much capacity to have. They say, you just have to meet your flow rate. And if we stop by and your grease trap's full at any point in time, you're going to get fined. We don't show up on a regular schedule. We just surprise you. And that thing better not be overflowing, bypassing the system.
Mr.
And
Mayor,
I don't know if we moved that process or not.
Mr. Mayor, so if I get that correctly, the size of your trap or it doesn't really matter as long as you've got the necessary
To meet the
freeboard,
flow
if
rate.
you will.
Correct.
And
The correct
that
flow
way it
rate.
makes it a business decision between the grease hauler, how much they're
Yeah.
coming to you and how much you're investing in that trap, correct?
Correct. The storage capacity should be on the owner, not the city. The city's created a term called drain dish drain function unit where they, how many plates of food do you serve and how many hours you're open and try to predict your capacity. It's on the business owner. If we stop by and it's full, you get a fine, period.
So, and we would be on the more of a, hey, here's a recommendation, but
Yep.
you can do what you want.
Yeah, and I
Correct.
mean, I agree. I put in grease traps as well, and it's weird that traffic counts are involved in our grease trap calculations.
Yeah, that's one of the things.
It's very odd.
The team and I and Clinton, Stacy and Hannah are working on. She's got a proposed revision to the fog ordinance as well. That more goes to between that and I think it's backflows too.
Yeah, how many cars that go by a business doesn't affect how much grease they have.
Okay.
Depends on the car.
Maybe.
Anyway, Jonathan tasked us with doing that and kind of, and going, get to a, what's the minimum compliance standards? And that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah, for example, if you've got a business that technically a commercial property, but it's got like, 2 bathrooms, 2 single hole bathrooms and a little kitchenette. Like there's no risk to that. So, backflow preventer, wouldn't be necessary. So that was one of the 4 or 5 key project areas this year to make sure that we were doing minimal yet appropriate enforcement for both fog and for the backflow prevention, cross-contamination concerns with our city.
And there's best practices that we've inspected for and asked owners to do things in the past. We're just going to share those best practices with them. And,
Yeah, I believe Miami-Dade has some of the highest standards for grease traps, and they're all HGIs for various reasons.
Mr. Mayor, we do actually have those as part of our revision.
Love it.
I believe that it is worked in there. When it was first created in 2019, there was very little data on HGIs. So since then, that has been revised, and it's something that we very frequently deal with.
I love it, and the department's gotten much more better to work with than when we opened history class in 2018. It was a nightmare.
that
So
is a
thank you.
direct result of Hannah's leadership.
Awesome.
All right, moving on. All right, this is a very high-level look at the overall FY '27 budget. The overall budget is below what's suggested in the rate study. There is a significant increase in operating costs, but that is offset by reduction in the capital cost request. But the capital costs do reflect on, and is focused on modernization of lift stations and lift station remodels. So that's the one issue. You can see the rate study suggests a budget of 36 million when it was completed, and we're at, currently on paper, we're at 35 million.
I want to make
Got
sure.
33 given to us.
33, okay.
No, I'm showing
Budget
30.
here. Oh, up here, it's changed.
So I want to make sure that I'm understanding this budget's based upon our water and sewer bills. Is that correct? Okay. So there's 23% is going into just maintaining billing and admin.
Yeah.
That's higher
Because
than,
our water charges to the county they get charged out of 3620. So what we pay the
Okay.
county for water service comes out of that $7 million.
okay,
right
so
there.
that needs to change. That's like,
See, that's where the admin thing comes
I
in.
mean,
yeah.
what do you want to
Yeah,
know?
so
Rich?
that needs,
Services.
yeah, you, like this, so 6320, you says billing and customer service.
6320.
How is water usage?
3620, billing and customer service, our water usage to the county, we pay for that out of that cost center.
So how do I know what we're actually utilizing to actually administrate the system? Like customer service? Like how much are we spending on customer
I
service?
don't know, the meter readers used to be in there as well. They're now in underground
Are
utilities.
there any
but-
people in that one?
Yes, there are people in billing and customer service. Our customer service reps are in there.
Yeah.
So
in that
where are
cost
they?
center. They're in that cost center.
So how much do we pay our customer service reps?
It's a part of that. I mean, that's a whole cost
That's
center
why I'm
that
asking for it
includes
to be at a different
personnel.
place.
But is it, you can break it out though, right?
Yeah.
You could absolutely
Our
break it down
payment-
further. This is just the top line.
Our payment to Bay County is a line item in the budgets you were provided. It's in the
Separate than
53.
this.
Yeah.
It's in the 53,400 cost center. It's a line item on its own. Or,
What's the
I'm sorry,
income
the
from
53,400 account.
What's the income that covers that 7 million net?
It's our water and sewer charges.
Some of it, but we
But
don't
we
know how
get
much.
income back from selling
And
water.
that goes into our water and sewer charges revenue.
But what is that? That income should cover this expense.
It
That,
does.
that's correct. I think you have it right there on your budget worksheet. Do you have revenues and,
I'm using my, okay.
okay.
How about garbage and
Robbie
trash?
has
Does it
the-
do the same?
The detailed utilities budget that we emailed out to you guys. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Trash and garbage.
That's a separate fund.
I know, but does the income from that cover the massive expense it takes to operate that?
The water, I mean, the
Garbage and
garbage
trash.
fund,
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
And
It-
trash.
It does cover the operations of the environmental
You're asking if
services
they're
fund.
profitable?
I'm asking, yes, they are, okay, but I wanna know what the income is. If it's costing $33 million to operate this thing, what's it costing? What are we making on this, these cost centers total?
This doesn't have revenue. These are just expenditures.
I know.
And so I think your budget worksheet there, I believe, had revenue.
Yeah,
It did-
what
oh, it
I'm
didn't.
asking is
Okay.
actually a different question than what Robbie's asking. I'm asking because, I mean, historically, we've had trouble keeping customer service agents in our utilities department. And so I just want to know how much we're investing into them, but I can't see that because,
You'd rather
But
see it
if
split
you-
out into a different
Yeah,
cost.
I mean-
Commissioner, whenever you look at the 3620 cost center, it's broken out in our proposed budget that you will be getting.
Okay.
It is salaries and wages with a personnel schedule that tells you the positions that are budgeted within that. And so you can clearly see what the personnel costs are for 3620. The water charges are an operating expense charge, so that's in that separate section. It's not part of personnel. So you will be able to see what just our personnel costs. I was gonna pull up what it is for fiscal year 26 currently, just to give you an idea.
yeah, that would be helpful. And why I'm asking is not to, I mean, at first glance, it looks like we're spending 23% of the overall water budget to actually administrate the water system, which would be the highest administration cost of any system I've ever heard of. But what you're explaining makes sense.
Right.
I just don't know how that's billing and customer service. It seems like to me that should be something different, like water charges.
Right.
You know, I mean, that would be
We can
clearer.
move it to wherever you want it to be moved, sir.
Well, I
But
just-
the personnel, services costs for 3620 for fiscal year 2026 were $551,989 for the utility billing and customer service costs.
$500,000.
Correct.
So we-
How many
Personnel.
people?
The other current contractual services that we pay for the water charges out of, that budget for 26 was almost 5.8 million.
So 5.8 million of this number is associated with just water costs.
Paying Bay County for our water.
That would be helpful to see that separately, because now I actually feel like we're underinvesting in our actual
This
customer
is a
service
summary.
elementary.
This is a
That's
summary.
that's a
In
completely
our
different
proposed
equation.
budget, it'll be like
Commissioner
that.
Granger asked how many employees are on that team.
For billing and customer service,
How many are allocated, I should say?
I believe
For the
it's,
number you just gave
let
us.
me tell you, I believe it's 10.
10.
10 for 500.
Correct.
And that's the full wrap.
Cool. Full
Yeah.
thing, benefits
Okay.
and everything,
Wow.
personnel,
How about
salaries and wages.
laboratory?
The lab, let me look that up.
It's the same.
How many employees?
Yeah,
Six for the lab.
so you get 509 in lab and 10, the other for 5, then the same in terms of costs.
Yeah, and
Lab
it's,
employee's gonna cost you more.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
They're
they
like
have
scientists.
to, like our laboratory
scientists.
Well, no
superintendent.
wonder why I get complaints that somebody's unhappy on the other end of the line. I'm just saying.
Customer service reps are our lowest, graded, in our lowest grade.
I would like to see us take some time, and granted, I'm not asking for this before we move forward to the next thing, but this is a not sustainable system. Like, when we are investing that amount into the people that are actually, we are your customer support right now for your water system. And I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but that's what it feels like to me.
I think it's a great idea. I think we should do a rate, like a study to figure out how much how much our staff salaries meet with salaries in other places, because I'm hearing a trend where, folks are leaving the city to go to other places for better pay. And I've heard that from this department, I've heard it from other departments as well.
I think what we're seeing as a trend in the positions that are open, and this is not any one department, it is those that are the boots on the ground, the ones that are day-to-day, doing grunt work is where it's most difficult for us to retain. And so I think there should be focus on that specific piece, because there is, that's gonna be a challenge.
I will say Charlotte's doing a wonderful job.
Oh,
We
love
have
Charlotte.
We have one vacant position that I'm holding on because of budget. But they have not had an issue filling or recruiting for that team.
Well, that's good. It's good to hear.
Well, I know when I first got into this seat, I thought that the directors could just decide how much to pay the team, and that is not the case. So that's all decided basically by us through city manager and HR.
I am working with Vicki and the HR staff to take a close look at that. We were kind of isolated to the positions that we're having trouble with, CDL drivers, mechanics, but we certainly can expand that look if you feel it appropriate.
Yeah, and I mean, other options too. I mean, we're talking about retail service with the county. Maybe there's some better system of doing it, than what we're doing it now. But if I did the math on that, as far as what your administration is, it would be, I don't think it's 1%. I mean, I think it's less than that. And I mean,
The city recently, a few years ago, went through a salary study, correct? And it was at that time that we implemented the step increases.
Grades,
so forth.
grades and step in 2021.
But I don't
Yes.
I don't
believe
think
we
these were a
did.
part of that.
Yeah.
Vicky, did we do, we did not do a salary
No, in
survey.
2021, October 2021 is when we implemented the grade and step program.
That was not based on a salary study?
No, ma'am. In my opinion, most salary study programs basically involve between $20,000 and $30,000 to get a salary study. And they contact all of the counties and the cities around them. They package that up and they sell it back to the next city and county. So we did our own review of what other people were paying in our general area, but we did not hire a third-party company. We did it in-house.
But, so a salary study was done?
I
I'm
can't
not
call it a
asking-
salary study, ma'am,
Okay.
because that is not my expertise technically, but I
Not a
will tell you,
doctor.
pardon me, sir?
You're not a doctor.
Correct. But I will tell you, ma'am, we definitely called other places, said, what do you pay for mechanics? What do you pay for equipment operators? We did review that, much like we do that on a regular basis. I just sent Jonathan numbers on mechanics that I got 2 weeks ago from the county.
And I
So-
would dare say they've changed since 2021.
Yes, ma'am, and so have we, though. I would definitely say we keep ourselves mobile. Back to Brandy's point, customer service representatives, we have one vacancy and we have no problems filling those positions. We have not had an issue filling those in quite some time.
And they're,
That's good.
how much do they pay?
That is going to be at our base rate, depends upon the experience of the person. It is an entry-level position. It is a grade 4, I believe, position, which is where our entry level is. But I would say the reality is though those folks do have the ability to continue to grow in those positions, and sometimes they transfer to other departments as they continue their growth. It's intended to be entry level when the person comes in. Basic skill set. Charlotte does a wonderful job mentoring folks, educating folks, bringing their skills up. It's much like our administrative assistants.
And how
It's
much
that
is
base
that
level.
pay per hour?
That pay would be a minimum of 1607, and it caps out at it's 3% per step, and there's 16 steps.
So it's easier to hire that person and the same pay out in the heat. You can't fill that one.
Yeah.
That's the one that you can't fill because we're not paying enough.
Can you identify some job categories that you're having difficulty filling?
I would say CDL operators is one of our biggest categories, but I'm not of the opinion that it's solely pay related. I believe that is an area where fewer people are going into that area, and it is much more difficult to get a CDL in the state of Florida than it used to be. The expectations are higher, the process is more complicated, and you have to have additional credentials to actually get a CDL. Used to be just a few month process, now it's closer to a year-long process.
I would say
So-
electricians as well. We've had a
Electricians
hard
is
time.
definitely one. We certainly had some struggles finding electricians. We currently have 2 vacancies, 3 vacancies in electricians at this point in time. That is definitely, we do partner with Haney. I sit on their advisory board. They're, just an advisory board. And we certainly partner with Haney when we can, and we lean into those opportunities. But that's another prime example. Thank you, Brandy.
So is there a reduced number of people becoming electricians? Is that part of the problem?
That is, it's the standard thing you see. Fewer people are going into direct trades, but we are certainly leveraging everywhere we can.
But for the first time in history, Haney has all of their classes. They have a waiting list on for auto mechanic, AC, all of. and we
They're
need
doing a
them.
wonderful job
We
up
need
there.
them, yeah.
And they provide folks with an excellent education, and we certainly have hired folks directly from Haney before. We've worked with them on their class schedules. If they need to be in class in the mornings, then we adjust schedules to make sure they can make class. If they need to be in class on Monday and Tuesday, okay, well, let's skew their hours different days of the week to work with the team.
Is there anybody that you can take that we have now and incentivize them and meet to get a CDL? Like they pay for it and pass it and we pay them back? Like something like that?
We have done some of that. I can't say that I can identify a candidate right now, but it
Well,
looks like,
I don't want to name by name.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Charles, do you have some others?
Yeah, referring back to what you said earlier, we did have one person on our litter crew, which was a maintenance worker. She took the test, got her permit, we provided the training, and she got her CDL, moved up to an operator 1, and she's now an operator 2. And we have another one that's in the process of doing that.
that's great. That's a cross-trained employee.
And we provided the CDL training in-house, correct?
Yes, they have to take the permit. And after they get the permit, then we can step up from there. We pay for the class, the modules, which is online, then eventually the CDL test itself. We have one success story so far, and we got 2 more in the works.
Love it.
I think, just to bring home the point though, I mean, it was like a 1-year process. A lot of senior staff used a lot of objective data comparisons to create the grade system, Commissioner Lucas, to make sure that, the jobs were in the right grade from 1 through grade 26. We've continued to reevaluate and reassess that as time has gone on with the positions, and happy to take a look at the customer service. But
Thank you for that reminder, because
Yeah.
where I was going with that was that time marches on.
Yes.
And so, whereas where we were 5 years ago, if we are not able to keep our salaries up, we're losing.
The
losing ground.
plan was, part of the plan was to each year, as we adjust and do COLAs per the CPI, we would adjust our plan for that amount to try to keep up with the market.
Did we
So-
do that last year?
Well, we didn't do a COLA, so we did
Right.
not do that last year. And
But that's the
I,
first year we have not done that.
and I will just add to that, we also mirrored at the time, this was a plan that the county was looking at adopting. And so we got it from them and worked with that to come up with our own plan. But they have since adopted a similar grades and steps system as well.
And I do believe that the grade and steps that we have in place are accurate. I do believe that predominantly they are in parity with each other. And what I mean by that is, for example, customer service representatives. I do believe the skill set and the attributes of that position is very similar to an administrative assistant. And so that parity exists between those two because a great deal of the functionality is very similar. Our admin assistants are the folks that are picking up the phones and greeting our citizens and having that very engaged customer service, which is why that parity exists. So we spent a substantial amount of time, as Jonathan said, Brandy, Jared, myself, and the former HR director met for weeks on end. Every Friday afternoon, we spent together poking holes in the system, debating what we would do to break it, and trying to solve those problems. And I do believe we built a very good system for the long haul, as long as we continue to mirror the economics and continue to have CPI increases, COLA increases, and maintain those steps. If we don't maintain the steps and we don't maintain the COLA, clearly to your point, Commissioner Lucas, we would fall behind. Last year was, to your point, Commissioner Street, the first year we didn't do the COLA piece since the system has been implemented in 21.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we move on. We are looking at alternative revenue sources. This is throughout Public Works in general. I think most of you know back in January 1st of last year, we started charging for our right-of-way use permits. Before that, we did not charge for those, but we found ourselves spending a considerable amount of resources both approving these permits and inspecting. So we took it before the commission and started that back in 2025. Year to date, for this fiscal year, we've collected approximately $150,000 in fees. That's approximately 500 permits. Stacy's done a great job with that. She is the one in charge of this program. And so that's a success story for us. Other things we're looking at besides that is septic receiving station, bulk water station, food truck commissaries, policy and fines for damaging city infrastructure, and we do that a little bit already through our right-of-way use permits. I think at the last commission meeting on Tuesday, you approved allocation of a check for $230,000 back into the utility, primarily the utility funds, for reimbursement of expenses we had to make a repair associated with that boring hit that we took. Inspection fees and private lift station inspection and maintenance programs are things that we're looking at. So with that,
Let me just add something, Clint,
Sure.
about the right-of-way use permit fees. I mean, I think this has probably been one of the most successfully implemented and executed programs in my time since becoming the city manager. Not only has it covered pretty much all of Ms. Roush's salary and cost to the city, and most of the deputy city engineers as well, it has given us the ability to, understand with the communications challenges with the one company aside, it's given us a real visibility and awareness into who is working in our right of way. I get, what are all these flags doing out here, And we've been able to answer those questions in pretty short order. Plus, we make sure if they're planning to do, like if it's a roll-off dumpster, we work with them, hey, don't just drop it in the road. Don't tear up our brand-new asphalt road by putting a dumpster in there. And there are other, fees in that as well. But I think this has been really good because it's allowed us to kind of come alongside both contractors and communications companies that are working in our right of way and kind of partner with them in order to protect as best we can our assets out in the field.
And I have two questions. Have we collected this amount or is it still in dispute?
No,
That's what y'all approved at the last commission meeting. It was
The 150,000
Oh, you're talking about 150,000
is what we've
Oh, I
collected
thought you were
today.
talking about with Clearways.
So that's actually collected, so that's not including the disputed amounts with AT&T?
Correct.
So, once that resolved, it should be more than this?
Correct.
yes,
Thank
and
you.
well,
That was what I wanted to
How
clarify.
And we
much
have the rest-
spent trying to collect it?
No.
Not much.
Nothing, we haven't even sent a letter yet.
Okay. So, go ahead.
No, I wanted to add this helps protect our infrastructure too. When we know those folks are operating in our right of way, we set parameters. They don't always follow them. But we do know who's done what to what pieces of
So
infrastructure.
to be clear, the only, so far right now, the only company that has refused to pay right-of-way permits is AT&T?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Everyone else has been paying?
Correct.
Okay,
I
thanks.
believe
correct.
that's right.
I believe that is correct, yes.
I did want to mention one other thing. We do set restrictions, so there's a common joke in the public works world and in the city manager world. Somebody's going to find a water main at Friday at 4 PM, right when the city
Right.
shuts down. And so there's certain periods like, hey, Fridays after 2 PM, you can't operate in the right of way if you're doing underground work. And there's no weekend work or things like that. So we do that so we have maximum resources if something bad does happen.
We used to cut water off of residents on Friday afternoons too, so we make progress.
Cut off days on Thursday.
Yeah, now it's not that
It's
much.
just peculiar to me, like,
And it happened to me, that's
we've
all.
got one vendor that's not paying. I mean, cables, I mean, we've got all these issues that we seem to have with telecom, so hopefully we can get a little better relationship working together.
I mean, I know the boring piece is inconvenient, but at the end of the day, it does keep, those lines are going underground, so you won't
Yeah.
see them hanging off the
Yeah.
poles.
So I see your examples of income. And I would suggest that before we start looking for income, going through this, I think there's a lot more we can work with. Some big numbers in there that I think are just, that's what we do, is we put a big number there. And I don't need to go through it all right now, meet me all, but, I mean, a big number, let's expand that out. When it's $45,000 and it's office supplies, that's a lot of office supplies, something like that, I don't know what that, if that's. And I would rather us try to cut first before we charge the citizen first. And so let's not lead with that,
We agree.
okay?
And the reason, like, there's the second example under the septic receiving station. We have a lot of private septic haulers that either do septic tank rehab, or they're operating portalets. And they have to drive their trucks to Mariana, and they've been begging us, hey, come up with a system where you can receive our septage, or they're what they're hauling at one of our wastewater treatment plants, because man, we got to burn up the road to get rid of it so we can get back to work.
Are they meeting up the county and the other cities, or are they just coming to us to spend money?
They've asked us, but that's something that they're
We're the
willing to
only
pay
one that
us.
has a wastewater treatment plant
Okay.
close by.
Close, yeah, I mean, and they
Okay.
want the 23rd Street plant because it's central to their operations. So,
Okay.
so they've asked us to do that, and they've said, and we'll pay you to dump our sewage so you guys can get a return on your investment.
Okay, what's
So-
a food truck commissary? That's just,
That's, so my understanding is we would create.
she got an answer.
Oh, great. That's right. I forgot it's a fall pit.
Yeah, so food truck commissaries, right now, there's a state requirement for you to be licensed when you have a food truck or mobile food dispensing vehicle. When you're discharging any of your dirty dishwater into our sewer lines, sometimes they have grease removal devices, sometimes they don't. Sometimes getting them into a small food truck is very difficult and costly for those trucks. So having a location for them to discharge their grease water and safely have it treated before it enters our sewer
So
system
it's
and our
gray
lines.
water. It's gray water coming out, like,
It's the water coming from their 3-compartment sinks and like their dirty dishwater.
Okay.
Yep, they're gray water.
Yeah, the mayor has his hands up.
Tiny man.
his hand looks like
Tiny
that.
man. Hey, so I didn't know if I needed
Mini
to bring
mayor?
this up. Mini mayor. I didn't know if I was going to bring this up previously when we talked about CNG. This was a conversation I had with staff earlier. I'm gonna kind of mix the 2 points along with this slide. We have a very complicated organization in general, in my personal opinion, and just picking on CNG. None of us, I don't think it was our idea to do CNG, but I see all these cost savings of CNG, and we see this slide of revenue. And if CNG is such an amazing thing, and we're just the smartest people in the world, how come Waste Management's not using it? Callaway, all these other Beach, how come everyone in the county is not using our CNG station for their facilities? And why aren't they saving money? And why aren't we making money off of them saving money?
And why does it cost so much to operate?
That's a good question. I worked for a public utility when I first came out of college, and I was on the team that kind of put CNG together. At the time, it wasn't very well known. That's been a few years ago, as you would imagine. So I think it's more of a marketing effort. I think we have one of the few local refueling stations around. So I think the TCO is probably reluctant to market that too much just because of the limited refueling opportunities. But that's a very good question. But I have a lot of research that I've done on this particular technology, and I'd be happy to share that with you. But it's a win-win. It's less expensive. It's better for the environment. It's better for air quality. It's better for your engine. So there's a lot of benefits, and that's a good question why more people don't take advantage of that.
Yeah, I would suggest us sending a simple email letter every 6 months to anyone who could, every fleet, beta schools, just reminding them that we have this station. It's ready for them. Whenever you're making equipment purchase, consider CNG. We're happy to discuss refilling costs, all this stuff. Because if it's such a great thing for us, surely everyone else would notice that as well.
It must break a lot to spend $50,000 a year repairing it. Repair machinery and equipment at CNG station.
Yeah, I'm not.
That might be for our maintenance agreement or something that would get charged to that account. That might be for the
It
maintenance
says
agreement.
repair of, not an
Yeah.
agreement. That's not under other contractual services.
I would have to look at what's getting
Yeah.
Just
spent
like the
out of
street
there.
sweeper that's brand new, that we got $35,000 attached to it for maintenance, and it's under warranty. And just got bought.
Are you talking about the mini sweeper?
Yeah, some of the things on
Yeah.
that, like the brush heads that have to be replaced,
Yeah.
the initial brush heads, it's a wear and tear, so it wouldn't be covered under warranty, but all the mechanical would be.
But some of it too are like part of these maintenance agreements that would get charged to repairs and maintenance, Commissioner.
Okay, brand new things get repaired under warranty.
Not your tires.
And you don't even get tired, you have to pay for your tire when you get in a wreck, they'll replace all that.
Your tires
My
aren't
concern
replaced
is
with
that we're
warranty,
budgeting for
I
something
mean, there's yours.
and acting like it's 10 years old, and it's not. Over at the CNG station, we're budgeting for something that sits there fenced in underneath the cover for 50 grand.
Those pumps are, I believe, have to have some kind of annual maintenance or inspections,
Then
I'm
we should have
sure.
a contract for that, and that should have a number
It's
attached to it
under,
under
and
contractual
it gets
service.
charged to maintenance and repairs per
But why is it not
accounting
another contractual
standard.
services where everything else is a contractual service?
It's all in the way the agreement is worded and what the accounting, uniform chart of accountings, codes
Okay.
tell you to charge it.
If we're gonna make the budget be the same all the way through, why don't we make the charges be the same all the way through?
Sir, it all depends on how the agreements are worded, just like some softwares are operating, some softwares are intangible assets, some softwares are subscriptions, and they're under books, publications, and memberships. I mean, it just depends on how the particular agreement is worded.
And staff isn't saying we like it. I understand what you're saying, but we're told like we have to.
Told by who?
The Uniform Chart
It's
of
the
Accounts.
uniform chart of accounts, and
So
the
you're
way
saying if it doesn't
GASB,
make sense, you're gonna follow it anyway? It makes sense.
it's per GASB standards that we have to account for these particular costs certain ways.
What would happen if you didn't follow it? If you just did it however you wanted to do
Yeah.
it? What would happen?
I mean, we would not be reporting correctly, because
But Brandy, would our auditors
But-
get, would our auditors
Yeah, our
get sideways
You
with
have
us?
findings, all kind of findings all over the audit, right?
Because it's not in the right categories. Say, it's the right price and all that, but not in the
we're
right
not accounting
category.
for them in the right expense accounts.
Sean Self, Logistics Director. I just want to mention one quick thing about CNG Station. We go out for bid for that periodically with a contract for a company. They have to literally be able to respond within 2 hours because that station is critical to the operation, not only to us, but if we do get the public to sign up and other businesses and stuff, that station has to be up and running. Just because there's an allocated amount to that doesn't mean it actually gets charged for the entire year. So for example, you may have a contract here at City Hall for an elevator service for $6,000 a year. That is the anticipation of the damage that could happen if I don't budget for that, and then something happens with the elevator, which periodically it does, then I don't have the money to repair that elevator. And so sometimes you'll see a contract like that, and I don't want to use the word standby contract, but that's kind of what it is. It's a standby so that if that station goes down, we have someone secured, and they will be here within 2 hours to support his team and make sure that station gets running again. Doesn't mean we're going to fully utilize that amount of money, though, if that makes sense. But we could, just depends.
All right. Next slide, yeah. Oh, that's it. Oh, well, the next slide was supposed to be question and answer, so I think we're.
You've
Yeah,
done
we're
a good
good.
job
Okay.
answering those questions.
All right.
We're good.
All right.
Yeah,
Are we
we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Thank you very much.
Nevin
Thank
has
you,
your
guys.
slide.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. All right, Mayor Commissioners, next is Housing and Community Services. And we have Ms. Sheila Ware, the Director of that department, here to give that presentation. Ms. Ware?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Today, Jared's there, okay. Today, I'm going to provide an overview of the Housing and Community Services Department explain how we fulfill our mission for assisting families in obtaining safe, decent, sanitary, and affordable housing through the programs that we offer. We'll review the SHIP program, the CDBG program, and then our ASAP program. Okay, housing currently has 3 full-time employees with 1 vacant position. Our ASAP program, which is under housing also, they have 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time positions with 1 vacant opening. Next slide. This is a list of all the different programs that the city offers through the housing department. And our next slide are the partnerships that we have through different agencies. We couldn't list everyone, so we do have probably another page of partnerships partner agencies that we work with. We sometimes assist them directly with assistance through rental assistance. Florida Housing Coalition, of course, is one of our agencies through the state. Goodwill, we do rental assistance for them, of course, HUD. And then all of our other partner agencies that we do referrals also through. I thought it was important to give you a little background on how SHIP was started with the city. SHIP is the acronym for the State Housing Initiative Partnership Program, which was created in 1992 under the William Sadowski Affordable Housing Act, with funding allocations determined by population and documentary stamp revenue collections. The City of Panama City originally administered both the SHIP and CDBG programs, which is the Community Block Development Program, in-house until 1995. When program management was briefly outsourced. In 1997, the City Commission voted to bring the program administration back under the city to better serve local residents and strengthen oversight. Today, 47 of the 49 cities that receive SHIP funding administer their programs in-house. During the late 1990s and early 2000s, Panama City's low to moderate income neighborhoods saw minimal residential investment. To confront the long-standing lending disparities, a coalition of local financial institutions, which included AmSouth Bank, Bay Bank, First Florida, First National Northwest Florida, People's First, South Trust, and SunTrust, formed a Bay Consortium for Community Development known as the BCCD in 1997. The consortium expanded access to mortgage financing for low to moderate income households by adopting more flexible underwriting standards and fair appraisal practices, helping families purchase homes in communities where they lived and worked. And as you know, during that time, there was a lot of redlining going on with the lenders, so there was no way you could really, in the city, obtain a fair appraisal in the low to moderate income areas. The housing department worked diligently with each lender to adjust their underwriting guidelines, eliminate the barriers, and ensure applicants who had historically been excluded could qualify for sustainable mortgage financing. As national agencies such as Fannie Mae and FHA later eased their own requirements and several participating banks were acquired, the BCCD successfully completed its mission and ultimately dissolved. Many lenders continued to work independently by developing affordable housing, in-house loan products that supported ongoing local initiatives. The Housing Department also collaborated with SunTrust to design a specialized in-house portfolio loan program for SHIP applicants who encountered obstacles with traditional FHA financing. This partnership alone broadened the community impact, opened pathways to homeownership for many low to moderate income families, and enhanced the availability of affordable housing opportunities throughout Panama City. So that's how we arrive at where we are today. Next slide, Jared. I also thought it was important to go back to the funding sources that we have had through the Housing and Community Services Program. In 2020, the COVID relief funds were released. Bay County received $1.2 million in COVID relief funds. The city was responsible for administering those funds. 319 households were assisted with that program, and that provided rental and mortgage assistance to help families stay in their homes and stay in their rental properties. Panama City was awarded $495,000 during that time period. 158 households were assisted with rental and mortgage assistance. So it was a total of $1.6 million that came to the city that was administered by HCS. 77 households were assisted. Then in 2020 and 2021, we received disaster assistance funds. $892,000 was awarded to Bay County, which 94 households were assistance with rehabilitation repairs to their homes and throughout Bay County. With that allocation, the city was awarded more this time than the county, because normally we receive the lesser amount. We received $1.6 million. 203 households were assisted with rehab repairs to bring their homes up to code. In 2022, we received Hurricane Michael housing recovery funds. We received $8.4 million. We assisted 186 households with that. We received $4.2 million for the county. And we assisted 132 households with the funds from the county, which was basically purchase assistance. The economic impact on the county's funds that we received with purchase assistance was $19 million. In 2021, HHRP2 was released, and that was the second phase of the hurricane fund recovery funds. The city received $2.6 million. We were able to assist 56 households. So our total economic impact of purchase assistance during that time period was $30 million with our hurricane funds. When you look at the next slide, the SHIP funding allocations, go back one more, go back, Jerry, okay? This shows from 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26, and then we have our 26, 27 allocation. As you can see, we're back to basics with the program. I looked at back to 2011 on funding we received, funding that the city has received with the SHIP program. We have received as little as $14,000 in 1 year, back in 2012, 2013. We are receiving more money than we have in the past. In 23, 24 was our highest amount we've ever received, was $423 in our annual allocation. This year, we're slated to receive $266,951.
That million?
No. Thousands. So the program has been able to sustain with the minimal amounts that we've received with our annual allocations. We have requirements set asides that we have to meet with the funding that we receive. So with that funding going into 26, 27, we have to address our different income categories. A minimum of 65% of the funds that are awarded to us must be spent on homeownership activities. An addition, 75% of the funds must be on eligible construction activities. The construction activities include rehabilitation, purchase assistance that is new construction. At least 30% of the funds are reserved for very low income households, which are 50% AMI or less. An additional 30% are reserved for low income, up to 80%. And then the remainder, which is normally about 20%, we can spend on moderate income, which is pretty much the workforce housing from 120 to 140%. 10% is reserved for admin. Also, if we receive program income, someone pays back their mortgage that they have on the property, or if land is sold, that is considered program income, and we're able to utilize those funds also. We're estimating this year, at least, we're hoping to receive at least a minimum of $100,000 in program income, but I'm hoping that that will be a lot more than that if we're able to sell some of the available lots that we have, some of the larger parcels. Next slide. This is a slide of the income categories. Everyone that applies for the program, you have to meet the income limits. Right now, we're only accepting applications for 50 and 80% because we are out of moderate funds. And also it shows what the rent limits are for the area, which is considered affordable rent. Next slide. Okay, our owner occupied rehab program, and we do have quite a few strategies. I want to say we have 10 strategies. I'm going to hit on the ones that we use the most. And we have determined that these are the ones that clients come in and apply for. So those are the ones that we have funded through the program, through the allocation. Some of the strategies that we have listed in our LHAP, like I said, there's about 10. We are mandated by the state that we have to list those strategies. So we can't say that we don't want to do rehab anymore. We don't want to do purchase assistance. It's mandated by the state that we do those. We have a disaster assistance is listed on there. Even though we don't have the money, we have to have it in our LHAP. The state requires that. So that's why there are so many strategies listed and all of them are not funded. But you have to have the ability to do them. If someone comes in and asks for it, or if we receive disaster money, we have to have that line item already in our LHAP. Owner occupied rehab. This strategy is typically used by elderly clients, disabled individuals on limited income, that they're in need of a repair. In this situation, this was a veteran. And yes, he was a veteran. We think that there are all these programs out there for veterans. Well, that was not the case in this individual situation. Their home was damaged through Hurricane Michael, and it sat that way for probably about 4 years. He was unable to get any repairs done. He worked with his insurance company, received very little funds. We went in, he was not able to apply for any veterans loans. There was no assistance available for him. He came to the program, we went in, we mitigated. As you can see, there was mold in the home. We had to mitigate the mold. If a client does have funds that they can put towards the repairs to the home, we do utilize that. They bring to the table whatever they have. So we partnered with him. He had about $25,000 that he could invest that he received from the insurance company. We used that plus our rehab assistance funds, and we were able to get his home up to standards. He also wound up having code violations, and we were able to stop his property from going to the hearing. We were able to get the magistrate to give him time to have the home repaired. So we saved him probably about $30,000 in fines that he would have paid. Also with rehab, we have the emergency assistance program. And with the emergency assistance program, we have a lot of elderly that if their air conditioning goes out, they just, on Social Security income, they do not, that's a repair that they cannot afford. We recently had an individual that we went in to do repairs. She needed a handicap accessible shower. She was not able to get in her bathtub. So we went in and we did that. We completed that repair for her. But while we were there, we noticed that there were some electrical issues. She had extension cords running all through the house. So one thing we're doing for 2027 is we are enhancing our emergency assistance program to make and rehab to include. We partnered with FPL and we're doing extensive energy efficiency workups for every property that's going through the program to make sure that the clients have the things that they need to so that they can receive the lowest electric bill possible. So they'll go in and change out the shower heads. They'll go in and put the LED light bulbs in. So they've partnered with us and agreed to do that on every property that we have. Next slide, demolition reconstruction. This is a program that if a homeowner is in a substandard home, and as you can see, this was substandard, but they were still trying to live there. So we went in, demolished the home, and had a new home built for them. Most of the time, this is also an elderly individual. One of the most recent ones that we had an individual in her 70s, hardworking lady, works 40 hours a week. When I went in the home to do the inspection, she was taking a shower using a storage bin was what she used for a shower. So we knew we had to come in, and also she had her daughter living outside in a storage shed, and was running the electrical wires to the storage shed. So in this particular case, her home was demolished and it was rebuilt. And then also we were able to place the daughter in one of our affordable rentals. Purchase assistance, new construction. Since 2020, HCS has provided over $6.5 million in down payment and closing cost assistance, assisted 127 families, resulting in an economic impact of $26.2 million. From 2020 to 2022, we provided $4.2 million in down payment assistance and closing costs to Bay County, assisted 134 families, and that resulted in a $19.2 million economic impact. So total families served to date by the program is 261 families with a total economic impact of $45 million.
That's really good.
Okay, our last one is, well, not last one, infill housing. This is just an example of some of the homes that have been built on the city's infill lots that we have. And we have 31 lots that have been utilized for the program. Next slide. This is a family who went through the infill housing program, elderly couple who never thought that they would be able to obtain home ownership. Next slide is 2026 year-to-date figures. We've received 166 applications. 139 of those were rental assistance, 16 for purchase assistance, owner-occupied rehab and emergency repairs, 7, foreclosure prevention is 4. Total clients that have been actually serviced, they may not have all received monetary assistance, is 141. We received year-to-date about 3,016 phone calls, and we have had about 790 walk-ins. Our mission is to, if we are not able to assist the client when they come in, is to give them a path forward. A lot of people don't qualify for the program, but that's when we reach out to our partners because we don't want people to leave the office discouraged and feel like there's no hope. It takes a lot for someone to come into the office and to even make the phone call to see if assistance is available. Next slide. CDBG. In 1978, the city of Panama City became a direct entitlement community and was eligible to receive community development block grant funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Funding activities with CDBG funds require that the project meet a national objective first in order to be able to be funded. The national objectives include benefit low to moderate income, the elimination and prevention of slum and blight, or meet an urgent need. It also has to qualify as an eligible activity through HUD. Housing activities qualify: rehab of residential properties, public service, economic development, infrastructure improvements. And the funding restrictions that we have with those are 20% max can go to administrative fees, 15% max for public service. So we're capped at that, at the 15% for public service. There is no limit on the remainder of the funds, which we use for public facilities and or infrastructure. Examples of things that have been completed over the years through the CDBG program: the Glenwood ASAP Center, the Glenwood Community Center, job training programs, housing, infrastructure projects throughout the city, paving projects, sidewalks, multiple parks in the city limits, to name a few: Daffin Park, Henry Davis Park, Oak Hammock Park, public service activities, fair housing activities. Recently, the fire truck that was purchased for Station 3 at 2103 East 6th Street, which is still in production. We were one of the first in the state to be able to purchase a fire truck for their municipality. And most recently, the new paving project that we're working on. Next slide. Okay, this is a look at our CDBG allocations, what we received for 2025, $360,009. 20% went to general admin. Then we have a public service, which is our ASAP center, which they receive 15% of that, of the allocation. And then public facilities and infrastructure is where we divide the remainder of. These are percentages are allowable through HUD, and they're the ones that set the amounts that you can spend. Our 2026 allocation was $437,152. We have the 20% for admin, our public service amount, and then our public facility, the remainder will be going into public facilities, which is helping with our paving projects. Projects that we have in the pipeline for CDBG, we are finishing out Daffin Park. We have about $40,000 left to expend at Daffin Park. Public facilities, our Glenwood ASAP playground, we are working on that. We were delayed with that from last year with the completion of the MLK Rec Center. But now we're able to ramp that back up, so that should be completed, we're hoping, by the end of year. Infrastructure paving projects, and those are the streets that we are looking at, that we are in the process of paving. And thank you to Clint's group, they're working hard on getting all those completed for us. So going into 2027, we will revamp our paving projects and look at additional streets that are in the low mod area. Next slide shows shows a demonstration of what Daffin Park will look like once it's fully completed. And I think we're down to just the lights being left to be completed. And then the Glenwood ASAP. So those are the improvements we're doing there with the playground. Okay, last program that we have is ASAP. Our after-school assistance program was created in June 1993 by the Panama City Police Department and began in the Panavilla Apartments housing complex. In 1998, the city purchased the old Neota Motel located in Glenwood through CDBG funding, and constructed a new facility at 726 East 14th Court. Construction was completed on that facility in 2000. With strong support from community partners, including the City of Panama City, Housing and Urban Development, the Junior Service League, 4-H, One Positive Place, Rural American, and many other community partners, ASAP now provides services at 2 neighborhood-based sites, 1804 Flower Avenue in St. Andrews and 726 East 14th Court in Glenwood. Nationally, Panama City experiences higher levels of youth vulnerability, greater poverty concentration, limited access to affordable after-school care, and stronger academic and safety concerns than other cities of similar size in the state. ASAP directly responds to these elevated needs with structured supervision, free healthy snacks, mandatory homework assistance, structured and targeted enrichment programs, and multi-agency coordination, providing a deeper, more tailored community impact than most national programs. It remains one of the few affordable after-school programs in the city, providing reliable daily support to working families. ASAP is also DCF licensed. From summer of '25 through the 25-26 school year, ASAP has serviced a total of 94 children. 26 are enrolled at for the 26 summer enrollment. 45 are in attendance at Glenwood site, and 23 are enrolled at our Panavilla site.
Just one moment, the mayor has his hand up.
Oh, sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, can you go back to the playground slide?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so no, go back to the previous one, the Glenwood. So
Yeah.
based on the numbers, we have 23 kids at this facility. Why wouldn't they just use the playground at the rec right there?
That site has 45.
Okay, why wouldn't we just use
This summer.
why wouldn't we just use the playground or add to the playground at the MLK Rec where everyone can use it all the time? Even a basketball court, why wouldn't we have, like, to me, or is there no fence? I mean, is this facility open to the public as well?
No,
Or-
ASAP, because it's a HUD, we receive CDBG funds to construct the Glenwood ASAP. And because of the DCF licensing, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, the students that attend ASAP have to be in a fenced-in playground and monitored by the ASAP staff.
Okay, they can't use the playground across the street or across the parking lot.
No,
No.
and it's not fenced also, is my understanding.
Yeah, it's not entirely fenced in.
Yeah,
correct.
it has to be entirely closed. Yeah.
These children, what are their ages?
The ages are from 6 to 13.
So that means they're elementary school age.
Yes,
And just as
elementary
in the
school,
school
yes.
district, what it requires for elementary school children is additional requirements.
Yes, yes.
Interesting.
The ASAP's hours are from 2 to 5:30, Monday through Friday, and then during the summer, we're open from 8 to 3. Now, with the 2 to 5:30, of course, if children if a parent needs us to be there until 6 o'clock, we accommodate them. We're not going to have someone have to take off work so they can, pick their child up at 5:30. So staff is very accommodating with that. And the same thing with our summer hours. So moving into 2027, projects that we have underway, we are partnering we have a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. We are assisting them with technical support to complete their environmental review and for the HUD grant that they've received for rebuilding their new facility. We're partnering with the Panama City Housing Authority to develop a cottage court in 2 different locations. Partnering with Acorns Children's Society on the youth homelessness grant for that could bring in up to $1 million to prevent youth homelessness. 21st Century Grant, we have applied for that for the ASAP Center. We are awaiting approval, but that grant could be up in excess of $350,000 for that facility. We're continuing our efforts to decrease land inventory within the city on available lots that we have throughout the housing program. Continuing our efforts to try to establish a local housing trust fund so that more funds can be available to the citizens of Panama City directly. No, ma'am, sorry. Continuing our efforts with our paving project. We're working with ARC on the Bay of trying to provide supportive needs for housing with them. And we're continuously looking at grant opportunities for the citizens of the city in collaboration with the other partner agencies. Also, this year, for the first time, ASAP has been working on this for a long time, trying to establish a music program, and we were successful. We received a grant for that, so this summer they were able to provide music to the students that have applied, that are enrolled with the site, and we're hoping to be able to continue that through the school year.
Sheila, it's my understanding that, for lack of a better term, ASAP was put in grant timeout for a little while.
Yes, sir.
Have we gotten out of that?
With the 21st Century Grant that we applied for that under the city. So any grants that we are applying for now, we are applying under the city of Panama City.
Okay. So is there a timeline where ASAP can do that again? Or have you always done it through the city?
I think I think Jan Smith recommended that we just do it through the city. That way funds are received by the clerk's office.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a problem.
Yes.
Right, that's why I was asking if we're out of time now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
Okay.
Yes, sir. On the operational cost for ASAP, we did a conservative approach for 25-26. ASAP costs, and this is all grant funds, we estimated about $300,000 for ASAP last year. However, I think, Brandy, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 245 was our amount that we wound up having to reimburse the city for, and those funds are reimbursed from the Friends of ASAP. So ASAP is not a direct cost to the city. The only funding they receive from the city would be through our CDBG grant, which is at 15% for public service.
So why are you writing a check to the city?
Because payroll is coming out of the city. And we are reimbursing them from the Friends of ASAP for this year. And then the following year, we have enough money in reserved to run ASAP for the next 5 years with the 1.4 million that is in the nonprofit that was set aside for ASAP.
So this is where we diverge. Basically, Friends of ASAP has how much money
Yeah,
left?
so the Friends of ASAP Inc., that is the defunct nonprofit that's in shutdown right now. It's currently being shut down still. That has about $375,000. And then the proceeds of the sale and all the recovery of the Michael Johnson stuff was deposited into the nonprofit, the meeting you guys just had yesterday,
The Panama City Community
Panama City
Fund.
Community Fund. I always
Yeah.
want to call it the Hurricane Relief Fund, excuse me. And that was, when that was accepted, it was like earmarked for the benefit of ASAP. And it was
Pretty
very generic.
specific. I felt like it was very specific. I was here at that point in time that we've got kids that are in an apartment over on the hill. And so I'm partnering with One Positive Place. The money was supposed to be put together to be able to stand up their own facility that's over there. That's what I felt like. And I think that's what the
They're willing to
nonprofit
give it,
understood.
they're willing to build it, but the city doesn't want to staff it.
So, yeah,
Right.
that's where we are. One Positive Place now has received the monies to build. They're been in limbo, waiting on the city to give direction. And there's questions among, I guess, the commission about the future of ASAP. And so we need to talk about that.
I do not intend to just burn through every dollar that we have when I really do believe that there's an important part of programming that's taking place through this program. It needs to be in a self-sustaining way. And just planning for 5 years that we're just going to burn through all the money that Michael Johnson stolen and that the city happened to recoup doesn't seem like a very good plan to me. And
I realize that, and Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, we've set aside our virtual workshop for Monday of next week to have this very discussion.
okay.
And I
good,
would like
good.
the virtual workshop to be in person here.
And that is no defense.
Y'all- I'd like
It's,
them
it's,
to be down
it's
here.
no
Come down here.
insult to anybody that works in the program or anything else like that. It is a fact of the matter. Yes, there is enough money inside of Friends of ASAP to stay solvent for this year. But unless there are private donations, unless there is something else that's coming, all we're essentially going to do is we're just going to burn through all the resources.
We haven't
that
been able to
could
get
go.
grants. Now we can write for grants because they're out of timeout. So
Well, they're not out of timeout, but the city is taking ownership of writing for
right,
grants.
so that's where we get the money from. This is if we have to shore it up. So,
Correct.
so I agree, it ought to be self-sustaining as close as possible. But not-for-profits are hard to do that. Taking it out of one not-for-profit that's been doing it for 20 years and giving it to somebody else
No.
who's
That's
brand new
not
doesn't
true.
make sense.
And that's not true. There are multiple nonprofits in our community that offer more hours than currently what we offer that are self-sustaining.
Well, we can make those
So-
changes, but the money that's in that Michael Johnson account, no, that's $1.4 million.
It's the Panama City
Panama City
Community
would-
Fund.
That made $17,000
I think it would
last
be
quarter.
good.
And so how can we use that extra money to put back into the program? How about that?
I think we're in agreement is in putting it into the program or whatever is stood up in the program. Where we're in disagreement is just using it for operating costs every year
Well, that,
until it runs out of money. Like, that's where we're disagreeing.
So I think the virtual workshop will be good, and I agree with Robbie about having it in person because this is a very personal
Yeah, this is a
thing
big
to
deal.
have, and we should have it in
Yeah.
person.
Agreed. So my only questions were like on your allocations for this year, Sheila.
Yes.
What do you intend to use administration dollar wise in your budget from our SHIP allocation?
10%.
So that is $27,000?
27, but plus we also, any program income that we get in, that goes to, also can cover admin costs. So if we
How much
receive,
of that are you budgeting towards admin?
10% of that also.
So
So if
that's
we get three-
100,000, so 10,000?
Yeah,
So it's 30-something thousand. How much of CBDG are you? planning?
20%,
20%, so that's 80.
right.
So
that's
that's 110,000. Where's the rest?
In NSP, 15% of any rent revenue that we have that comes in, we are able to use that also.
So you're just going to draw down from the reserves?
Yes.
So the rest of it would be covered. And what is that delta that we'll pull down just from reserves to cover?
And wait, are you pulling down from reserves or are you using the revenue that comes in?
Well,
We just went through
The
that.
rental.
Okay.
yeah,
10%
Yeah.
of that, yeah. She's answering the question.
yeah, the 15% will
I'm
be
sorry, I was the
drawn
slow
down.
one there, my bad.
And then if there's any
question.
program income, also we have interest income that we have received that we're able to use.
Can you provide us with this budget and allocation so that we know exactly?
Sure.
So there's 2 million in SP. How much of that are you drawing down for staffing? That would
That
be
will all
helpful.
be part of the proposed budget
And we will see that.
Yes,
every year.
yes.
Yeah, we get that big thick
Well,
book every
no.
year.
Yeah,
Every
Yes.
year.
Details.
But
All
it-
the revenues and all the expenditures are budgeted.
Yes, but what I'm asking for specifically is if we're utilizing a reserve fund, like I'd like to know, so we
It'll be a
know.
budgetary change in use of reserves.
Okay.
Can you
Yes.
highlight that for him?
Yes, I will be happy to go over it with you and break it down because it is confusing because they
Yes.
do have two different funds.
Right.
And several different programs within the funds.
So what I'm trying to say, specifically, there is no axe to grind with this department, Sheila. It is, you're surviving off of your reserves, and there comes a point in time that your reserves will not allow you to sustain. And where we're at as a city, I don't know how we keep finding ways to keep filling the gap. Being very creative, I appreciate the creativity. But every time we draw off of the reserves, that's one less project that we can do too.
Exactly, but with the NSP program, that program was set up for us to provide affordable housing to low to moderate, hard to place individuals. And that's what we've done with the rentals. So the money that you're receiving in rent, the city would not have had that had the feds had not come in and said, we're going to give you 2.5 million for the county, we're going to give you $1 million for the city. So we are supposed to be using those funds for the administration. You collect your rents, but you also are supposed to be using it for the administration of that program until the affordability period ends. So it was designed that way for it to be spent on the administration. Once the homes are sold, we are able to take that money. If we do a local housing trust fund, we will have the flexibility to,
So I guess
Use the funds.
I just need to see how much is, so
That's fine.
there's $2 million sitting into account for NSP that could be used for virtually any community block development purpose. How much are we taking out to
No.
fund salaries this year?
Okay.
That's really
That
what,
rent can't be used for any of that. It has to be back in the NSP, doesn't it?
except for the admin costs. They
Okay.
allow for us to use funds for admin costs because they know the program has to be administered until the affordability period is up.
So if you bring in 10,000 a month and it's 1,000 for admin costs, you can spend the other 9 or you cannot.
The other 9 has to go back into the properties. Yes.
Until
And affordability period is up.
Right, and how many houses do we have that have met that timeline, that 15 years?
We have one property on Balboa that just came off at the end of beginning of July.
And it's so nice, it has 2 slabs.
Yeah, that's the one
No vertical
that's the
construction.
one where Nevin can explain that
Right.
we were,
Okay.
that there was an issue with. So we decided not to rebuild that. And now that property can be sold or whatever the commission sees fit to do with it.
So for full transparency, when I heard that we were having 25 houses, my head spun around about 14 times. And, but here's the cool part. What's the best deal that we have that we bought that our return after 15 years would be pretty good? What is,
I would say, well, there are several, but I would say probably the ones that are on the beach, in the Palm Cove, which is a gated community that we spent about $80,000 for.
Today, those are selling for upwards of 300,
Yes.
275, 300. But if we sell it now, we gotta give all that money back, other than the 80 that we
We
paid.
don't give it back.
We just don't get it. Well, it
No,
goes
yeah,
somewhere.
No, we can reinvest it into doing other objectives, yes. Like.
If you
we-
sell it now, if we spent 80 for it, plus any repairs we put in it, that's all you can sell it for. You cannot make a dollar off of it until that affordability period is up.
That's why-
After the affordability period, you're able to sell it at market value or whatever price you pick. But the HUD does cap you
I think
because it was not
that's
set
all.
up for you to make a profit.
That's all good
I'd like-
information for the workshop.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll bring all my stuff.
Yeah, so just real quick before we get too further in this, so we're actually going to have to work through an issue. I don't know that we're going to be able to do it in person. There was not a planning board quorum, and so there's actually a special planning board in this meeting at the same time on Monday. And I also, Mr. Zimmerman, I don't know if we modify a workshop, whether it be in person or virtual, different from what was originally noticed. Are there any concerns with that? Because we do notice all of
Can
our
we just have it in the executive room?
But,
Yeah.
on the virtual, people are allowed to come down here and watch it in this room, right?
It's in, the viewing for this one is in 102.
Conference room upstairs,
Okay.
yeah. But we'll work it
yeah.
out. My question though is,
That wouldn't change.
are there any
Right.
concerns with modifying the specifics of it, even though it's been noticed?
No, just do it in conference room and stream it. So, that's fine.
Yeah, that's asking, that's what he's talking about. Is that
That's
what
what
he-
I'm
Yeah,
talking
we're
about.
clarifying.
Yeah.
What about the Glenwood Community Center as a location?
Can it be streamed?
Yeah, that makes it a lot more challenging for streaming
Can
and
be.
participation and all that.
The question is, we've noticed it to be a virtual meeting, and if we notice it tomorrow to be an in-person meeting, is that reasonable notice that, hey, you can come, and watch and see it in person?
Well, can we meet together virtually? What?
No.
What I'm
Well,
trying
we
to
can
say,
still
what's the
offer it
difference?
virtually.
Yeah, can't
Yeah,
we-
we can still offer it virtually.
Yeah.
We're
We
just
can
in the
meet.
room together. You just stream all of us while we're there. Is that not able to be
Like
done?
right
I think
now,
that's
we're
what Lynn
streaming,
Haven
right?
does.
We can stream but not
Just
stream.
listen, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a notice issue. Because y'all will be together. But we'll know first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and we-
need to just look at it.
And we do have, we had two folks coming from the OPP,
We're gonna have
from the
more.
board.
More.
that
We're gonna have
so I
more.
need to confirm with them.
Yeah,
so-
no,
Yeah, we
Jonathan,
just gotta make sure they can come in person as well.
I've already.
Have you guys
I've
already sent
talked
us
about
this
that.
agenda? Have you
I'm
guys?
It's
sorry,
a
what?
virtual workshop for Monday,
But we
the
haven't got-
topic.
Hold on.
Well, that's why I'm like
there's a lot
asking
of people-
questions. I
I
don't
know.
know that that's
Yeah,
our
yeah.
topic.
I think I announced it the last one that
Okay,
was gonna
alright.
be, we're gonna talk about OPP. This
Okay.
was at Commissioner Lucas's request.
Jonathan, I have invited Kelly to bring at least one more person. We can't invite 18 people to come and join from the city and then limit the people that we're talking about. So I've invited, they'll have 3 there tomorrow, that meeting. So,
Yeah, and we can't have two meetings streamed at the same
I
time, so
get
I don't know
that.
how we're gonna do planning and virtual, we'll have to work
We'll,
through
we'll,
that.
we'll address that in the morning. but-
okay.
So thank you. This historical perspective, I think we all needed to hear that and to be reminded. One of the key concerns for me as a service delivery from the city is that we are providing these services for the hardest to reach and most vulnerable in our community. Historically, we are still dealing with the vestiges of government decisions and laws years past. And we're still working to address those. And these programs in our Housing and Community Services Department do a great job of that. Given that it's 2026 and where we are now, does that mean we don't need to revisit, look at how we're doing things? I think we're open to that always, each year.
Yes, ma'am.
And do we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater? To me, the answer most definitely is no. When we look at the ASAP children, the question for me is how do we serve more?
Right.
Because when we look at the number of need, we are not there, even with all of our nonprofit partners in the community. Childcare and daycare and educational services for the low to moderate income families is a great need. And everybody together is not meeting that need at this point.
Right.
So, thank you for the presentation. Back in a prior life, I had a lot of interaction with ASAP because of the service league. My wife at the time was in the service league, and I helped do a lot of clothing closets. And we also do before school, go and put kids, and you have to put X's on the socks and the underwear, so the parents wouldn't bring them back and, get return for the money. And the next year, they'd have the same socks and shoes on. That's what we're talking about servicing, is from the schools to the ASAP. And you can see the gratitude and the appreciation. That's what we're doing. From an education point, we're also helping. And I believe that whether it is right or wrong for another 5 years to profit up, we don't need to make a change right now, because we got so many other things that we have to change. This one happens to be self-sustaining right now without us having to mess with it. So I'm on board, and we'll talk about it some more for maybe tweaking it, but keeping it there. Yeah.
We're always open for suggestions. And one thing with ASAP is set up to be the feeder program into the MLK rec, because we work with the younger children. So once they get to the middle school age, they don't want to, attend ASAP. So we're trying to work with Keith. He and I have had long conversations on how we can stand up something over at MLK for the middle school children. Okay? Thank you all.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, if you'll move into the next slide.
Commissioner,
All right,
can I ask a question?
You just did.
do you have a microphone?
You just.
All right, moving to you.
Hold on.
Yes,
Nevin, turn your mic,
Yeah,
turn your
Nevin,
mic on.
Mr. Zimmerman needs a microphone for the purpose of those
Just-
online.
just
Just
hit-
use Mr. Hughes, please.
Just hit the green button, Nevin.
No, he's got
He
it.
has
He's got one.
Yeah, he's got it.
Sorry about that. My question is, I get the sense that you would like to meet in person Monday at 4:30. And I do believe that the executive conference room that's where the charter review committees, meetings were held. Is that,
You still have a streaming problem.
We did learn that the planning board scheduled for 2:30 to 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
So we're fine.
oh,
yes,
You gotta
sir.
use a microphone. The mayor can't hear you otherwise.
The planning board starts at 3. If the planning board meeting goes.
It's 2 o'clock, Donald, 2 o'clock to 4, 2:30 to 4.
They told me 3 o'clock, and that's what it was.
Okay.
All right. Well, like I said, we'll figure this out in the morning, and I'll communicate with everyone before noon. So,
but we,
Yeah.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the charter review wasn't streamed, it was recorded.
it was streamed.
It was streamed.
Yeah.
It was recorded.
Yeah, well, like I said, I know, we'll figure everything, out. There's a
Okay.
lot of
Good.
logistics. We'll figure
That's-
everything out in the morning. So, all right.
Thank you.
I understand. We want to try, we're going to do it in person.
All right, process timeline.
Yeah, I'm
What we got?
trying, sir. I'm trying. All right, next slide. So just a quick recap. So in accordance with state statute, we have 35 days from July 1st to set the maximum proposed millage rate during the city commission meeting. That'll happen on July 28th. And then the budget hearing and adoption will not be until September. We'll have the first budget hearing at 5:01 PM on September 8th, and then the second one on September 28th, also at 5:01 PM. As a reminder for those in the room, we cannot hold any of our budget hearings that conflict with either the Bay County Commission or the Bay County School Board. So we've coordinated with them to avoid those dates. So staff is continuing to finalize the proposed budget, which reflects the $64.5 million expense cap for the general fund. And we expect that to have that ready for review by August 3rd. If there are no other questions from the mayor and the commissioners, we do have the opportunity, since this is a budget workshop, for anyone from the community to provide audience participation. Please come to the microphone.
There's a couple of y'all here that just can't not come up and talk. You know who you are.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not, I was just poking at you a little bit there, yeah.
I texted you, I'm just kidding.
Michelle Bryant, 409 East 9th Street. Before y'all start my time, when these meetings are this long, please have food and snacks. I digress. Some of us have to have it. I just wanted to say, I got you.
Oh, my.
And thank you, Patty. That was
Now I almost did it workman's comp. But anyway, so
Vicky's over there like, what in the world, guys?
I played basketball, but 20,000 years ago. I just want to say this is very eye-opening, and thank you guys for having these budget meetings and really drilling down into really what's going on. As a citizen, we're all being asked to tighten our belt straps. So to hear the city talk about ways to improve, with improving without cutting staff, it is highly recommended, and we really appreciate it on the other side. Specifically, I want to talk about the Housing and Community Service Department. Thank you, Sheila Ware, for providing a very detailed look into what you provide to citizens in the city of Panama City. I specifically want to note that throughout these meetings, you all are probably aware, there is not one budget line in your budget specifically for seniors. As you guys know, seniors are near and dear to my heart. I run a nonprofit literally out of my own pocket to ensure seniors have things to do. So in listening to Sheila Ware's presentation, it was really critical for you guys to notate all the work that she does for seniors in our community. Most of those seniors that she mentioned are seniors that we work with daily. Seniors who, without her services, would not be able to no longer live in not only Panama City, but live in the city that they grew up and they loved. The other piece that I want to mention is about the services that are in the housing department. Rental assistant, home assistance. I don't have all of the data, just speaking to various employees that are through the city. A lot of your employees utilize these programs and these services. Not knocking the city, but you know the pay that you guys offer is a little bit less than some of the other municipalities. And what keeps these employees here are the services that the housing department offers them to be able to live in the city of Panama City. Just last week, one of the employees came in that cleans the building that we're in, was complaining about some of the inabilities of getting housing support and being able to move. And I recommended Sheila Ware's department. A lot of your employees need this department to be able to live here in this city. So what I ask you to do as you guys look at budget cuts and all of this stuff, keep in mind as you decide not to cut employees, you need a department like the Community Service and Housing Department to allow your employees to even be able to live in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Bryant.
for the M&Ms.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the M&Ms. Even though they were thrown at me.
We had to make it.
Hi there, I'm Patty. I live at 1115 Fairland. We fixed the yard if y'all want to come see me. We've been working on it. My question is more overriding to the budget. This is the kind of thing that the mom in me worries. I think the budget is about 65 million. Is that what we're saying? I'm more concerned about the $150 million line of credit. So we have three verticals, right? We have this budget, we have the reserve, and we have the $150 million line of credit. So my specific question is, the MLK Center is done. You know I'm a huge fan, advocate. Have we gotten the money back from FEMA for that? And I think we've paid 2 interest payments that I remember, which would be 16 million. If I recall, and I'm sketchy on this, I think Jeanette invested something of the money so the interest would cover the 8 million or close to it, right? But what I'm worried about as a taxpayer, because it's really, you guys are supposed to manage it, and thank you for everything you're doing, but I know about communities that have gone bankrupt. I've used the example before. It's Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I've been a part of bond campaigns. I've had bond campaigns as clients where you had to raise money for the school district because something happened like this. So I want to know if there's a plan that I feel should be included in this budget thing of how and when to pay down the 150 million and contingency plans if that doesn't come through. Because I used a glass of water and Googled my chat GPT to see what is the days of reimbursement right now for FEMA and Florida on capital projects for municipalities? And it was 1 to 4 years. Okay. If it's coming, is it coming in 4 years? So we got 4 years of interest payments. That's $32 million. That means you gave me 150 plus 32, $188 million. How you going to tax me? I mean, okay. But it's the big one, y'all. It's the big one. So that is something I wish that you would add. And similar to Michelle, I'm so pleased, and I think it's incredibly healthy that you've had so many of these budget workshops. Thank you.
I can respond to some of Patty's questions, I believe. You're going to be excited to know that at the very next commission meeting on July 28th, that there is a budget amendment coming forward to pay off $73 million of the $150 million line of credit, or loan. It's not the line of credit. So we are absolutely working on a plan, and we did extend it. Everything is due next September 2027, and we are on track to pay off as much of that as we can. There will be some long-term debt that we have to take out, which was always the plan. But we, every day, are working to try to minimize that. But the goal is to pay off as much as we can before next September. And we did invest, Truist did invest a lot of our proceeds, the unused proceeds, into an investment account that did help offset some of our interest cost.
The important thing to remember about that too, right now we're paying interest-only payments. Whatever's long-term is principal and interest. So
Just like your house.
Just because we pay off half doesn't mean the payments go down.
That's right.
But our
So-
term is much longer because we had a 3-year term on this.
The MLK reimbursement, anything back from MLK yet?
I know we have received reimbursements on MLK. I don't know exactly how much or if we've received all of it.
Yeah, I can't really speak to it, but I do know that our team was pleasantly surprised at how
How quickly.
we're getting those, because at the beginning, when we took this loan out, we were expecting way longer time periods from the initial request from reimbursement from our staff to the state to FEMA, and then actually getting that money back in the bank. So it is happening faster than what ChatGPT told you. So I think sometimes, and that could be from project inception to close out to final reimbursement, but it is happening faster.
Brenda Lewis Williams, 2748 Oak Drive. I said this the last time. I've not heard any drawdowns from admin and or department heads. Most of you make 6 figures, and the belt's got to be tightened somewhere. We all do it in our households. City Commission, you all have jobs. Take a cut, no salary for maybe a year or two. Even the same thing on the CRA. It has to start somewhere. Daniel Price, and I can't remember what he started, but he made a whole bunch of money on a credit card company. And he cut down to his salary to $70,000 so he could pay his employees, because that's what makes the company. There's 4 departments here. We've already talked about housing, but there's 3 other departments in the city should not be messed with, period. That is the police department, because we'll all be in a world of trouble. The fire, thank you, and public works. We cannot afford. I'm on some waters right now. I reclaim my seconds, okay? And I say that because those 3 departments are what make the city work. You all don't make the city work.
No, we don't.
You don't. Those 3 departments are an integral part of what makes this city work. You talk. Clint was talking about the water. I got brown water coming out of my faucet. I don't even drink it. Reluctant to bathe in it, but nonetheless. And one of the things that got me started was the lift stations. They're still not in the best condition. I rode by.
The potholes.
That one was when I ran for mayor.
Oh, okay.
I'm reclaiming some seconds back, okay? But I went by lift station 78. That's the one that actually got me started doing my toodle doodles. The grass isn't mowed. If the building is, you can go. If I went and kicked it down, it would fall. It would fall in. So there are some repairs that need to be made on those lift stations. Same over there on Caroline. It's not just in one part of the city. And what causes blight in the city is the city government not doing what they're supposed to do. And that is taking care of the city. And I don't see that. You cut services in those three departments, we're gonna be in a world of trouble for a whole bunch of years. A whole bunch of years. All these six-figure salaries, y'all need to address it. I haven't heard you say a thing about what you're doing to take care of the city. I know you have bills.
Thank you,
So
Ms.
does
Lewis
everybody
Williams.
else.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis
You're
Williams.
pulling an Allen branch on me. That was
I'm just trying to follow the rules, ma'am. All right, any other audience participation? I know it's been a long 3 hours.
No, not really. Some eating.
Janice Floyd, 3010 East Third
Could you just pull the mic closer for folks online? Thank
Because
you,
I'm
ma'am.
short.
No. It was more of an
Janice
alignment
Floyd,
thing.
3010 East Third Street. I'm just here in support of ASAP. I'm a single mother, and when my child was young, things were very tough, and ASAP came to my rescue. I didn't want my child to be a latchkey, and he was at ASAP, and he is now a wonderful young man, and a lot of it is because of the help I received. I give back now to ASAP. I'm on One Positive Place. I'm friends of ASAP. So I'm in a position now that I can help out. But it's because of where we had the help when we needed it. And I'm very appreciative, and it's not costing the city. No, we're not helping thousands of kids every year. We don't have that ability, but the ones that we help, it has made a difference in their lives and in their families' lives. So I just.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Any other audience participation? All right, seeing none, thank you so much.
Mr.
This workshop is concluded.
I just want to say to Ms. Michelle Bryant and the senior living folks who came out tonight, thank you for being a part of this process.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, ma'am. My apologies.
One more.
I am Judy Wilson at 1225 East 13th Court. First of all, I want to thank Miss Sheila for helping me to get a home. I'm a senior citizen. I walked miles to get over there to where she was to apply for that house when I first got it. And it was like a blessing in me to get my kids out them projects. I was grateful, and I'm grateful for that. So y'all should consider keeping this position because we need it. A lot of us do. And others are coming behind us need it. Also, I want to mention that on 13th Court, y'all talking about taking care of stuff. It's a mess back there. Nobody cutting grass, nobody cleaning up back there on that ditch and everything. We need that. I'm tired of calling trying to get help back there too. We need to get that did back there. All on the edges of the roads and everything need to be taken care of and stuff. I try to get my lawn service to come out there and try to cut something to keep it down because there's snakes in that ditch and everything. And they'll be coming out a lot soon. And yes, I'm grateful, like I said, to be back there. But it seems to me that nobody really care about Glenwood. None of the commissioners and all. And I really wish y'all would consider cutting your salary to help us out of here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just want to say, Mr. Hayes, we did on our drive-by 2 weeks ago, we were on your block, do a tour of the ward. And so he'll have someone following up to look at that.
All right, is there someone else? Yes, ma'am.
First of all, squeeze it in here. Next time I would bring my jacket. Hi, I'm Mrs. Shirley Hooks from 812 East 17th Street.
Hey, Miss Shirley.
I have called several times about the same thing, potholes on my street. I've spoken to Josh and a couple more people down here. 812 East 17th Street. There's a retention pond across the street. The ditches is grown up. I've been trying to get someone to cut over there also. And there's mosquitoes and snakes and possums and you name it, we got it. So I am fed up also. So please do not cut the city workers. I mean, I know they're doing their best, but they can do better. I just wish they would do better and come out and serve Glenwood a little bit more frequently. And like you were saying, they pick up once a week for the trash of the garbage.
The with the claw, yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's not on my street. I have to call sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes my trash or my, garbage stay out there for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time. And I have to call for someone to come out with the claws to pick them up when I clean my, cut my trees or my palm tree limbs. They stay out there for months before someone really do come out there and pick it up. And there's potholes up and down East 17th Street. And now they're talking about rezoning it. I know they don't have anything to do with you guys, but anyway, they're talking about rezoning my area to commercial. We've been there forever.
I mean, that would be this body. Are you talking about school zoning or?
No, just rezoning to from residential to a commercial.
It may be something that
Area.
hasn't come before this
Yeah.
board and may be in a planning stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was here Tuesday, I believe, and they canceled the meeting, and they said we'll have it next August.
Oh, the
10th.
planning board?
Yeah, the planning.
Oh,
board.
okay, so it's a property that's
Right.
being requested to be rezoned, okay.
But
And
that is
also-
this board. This board has that final authority.
Oh,
But we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, they
We
haven't
haven't
seen it
seen
yet.
It goes to
Okay.
planning board first, so
Right.
make sure you're there, right?
And also, I would like to thank Ms. Sheila Ware also because she helped my mother, who has been in the area for years. And she passed away about 16 years ago. But Ms. Sheila Ware, she held us down and she did a whole lot of work in my mother's house with windows and the air conditioning. When I came here to visit, she had little window air conditions, and Mrs. Ware and her department, they put a central air and heat in there. We wasn't at the heaters no more, the little heater that the old people used to have in the house. And I'm embarrassed when my family come from up north to visit me. Cause we cannot, the streets and everything just look so horrible. It doesn't, no street lights, we don't have no lights in our area. The telecom poles might got one here and one 50 or 100 yards away from us. It's very embarrassing when we do have company to come to visit. And I would just like to see more done on East 17th Street.
I got it.
8, 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Nowhere else, just right there.
We're we will look at that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Any other public comment? All right. Thanks everybody so much for coming out. Have a wonderful evening.